What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if female Naruto trained by Thor and Loki? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. A lone child sits huddled up into a corner in a cave as he hides from the screams and yells of the villagers hunting for him. I saw the demon run into the forest. Came the yell of a man and the others yelled as the boy could hear the footsteps run away. Tears rolled down his puffy bruised cheeks as his eyes are closed eyes. Why do they do this to me? Came the whispered child's voice. Deep inside the child, crimson eyes open and a single tear could be seen rolling down red fur. The child suffers so I can live another day. Is it even worth it? Questioned the crimson eyes as they closed once more to slumber. Slowly the child succumbed to sleep as a heavy rainstorm took place outside. The wild animals of the night just watched over the cave opening from the shadows as they felt an alpha coming from with the cave and the pain and sorrow as well. In a flash of lighting a figure is seen standing there. His amber eyes watched the cave as his massive sword stood before him. Slowly he closed his eyes and looked up to the heavens that appeared to be crying for the child. For the child forsaken only 8 years ago. My lord, it is time to awaken from your slumber and claim the heir of Asgard, said the amber-eyed man as a man with long golden locks appeared before him. His lone sky-blue eye looked to the man with amber eyes. Have you found the child? Asked the man with the lone sky-blue eye. That I have, my lord, said the amber-eyed man as his massive sword moves towards the opening in the cave. The child is within the cave before you. They are hiding for their life from the villagers that cry for their blood, he said as he looked over at his lord and master. The man's lone eye narrowed as he looked at the other man and back to the cave entrance. Why would they wish for the blood of an innocent child? He questioned the man that stood next to him as they watched an inky black fox kid wander into the cave to get out of the heavy rain and away from the frightening thunder and villagers who killed its mother not long ago. The fox kid saw the child sleeping and slowly smelt the air as it smelt of human and fox. It slowly made its way to the child and slid under the child's arms, and the child in its sleep pulled the fox to them, sleeping more peaceful as there was something soft and warm next to them. The amber-eyed man turned to another that appeared next to him. His eyes narrowed at the emerald green-eyed man. I didn't expect you to awaken as well, my lord, he said with a slight edge in his voice. The green-eyed man smirked, looking over at the other man. It's hurt not to come when you just called for a lord to be awoken and not call for us by name, he said with a playful smirk on his face. The man with the long sky-blue eye looks over at the man with emerald green eyes. That is enough. We are here to see if this child is in fact our missing heir, he told the other man with a slight glare. The other man just nodded his head as he looked down at the entrance as another fox kid could be seen running to the cave, as this one was white as snow. It saw its sibling sleeping with a human child that smelled of fox and ran to the other, crawling up to them falling asleep. As the night became inky black and the lighting danced around in the clouds and thunder could be heard for miles, a golden glow came from the cave. Inside that cave next to the child was the fragments of an old hammer. In the child's slumber they had grabbed the leather strap and grabbed the hand of the old broken hammer. Within the child's mindscape, the crimson eyes with the child once more seeing the silver light in the center of the child's mindscape as a man with shaggy blonde hair and crystal blue eyes appeared before the cage. The man looked over at the crimson eyes. I'm sorry for sealing away. I never meant to hurt you, said the man as he looked at the crimson eyes. Funny, but I understand. It was the only thing one could do with me rampaging in the village, said the crimson eyes as they looked away from the man to the shadows of its cage as tree began to grow from the tears that flood his cage. This will be a second chance for the two of you. Please take care of my child, for this will be the last time you will see me until I am truly needed, said the man as he opened the cage doors and a collar appeared around the neck of the crimson eyes. I have always been a protector of your family and all the children that come from it. I will protect your child as well, said the crimson eyes as a sword, hammer, and other weapons appear before its eyes as grass began to grow and the tears come a beautiful lake with a moon shining down onto it. At the cave entrance, a man with shaggy blonde hair and crystal blue eyes appeared before the three men. Father, it is good to see you once more. Uncles, it is good to see the both of you, said the man with a haunting voice as they could see he was just a spirit standing before them with ice chains hanging from him. Son, what is the meaning of this? Why are you here in just spirit? Who's the child within the cave? Questioned the man with long blonde hair with the lone sky blue eye. A ghost of a smile graced the ghost of man's lips. The child is my heir and my hope for the future, he said as he looked over his should. As he could have sworn, he saw the spirit of his late wife standing before their child. The man's lone eye widens. The child is my grandchild? He asked his son before him. That they are, father. I am sorry I never called for help. But it was too late when I awoke my power, but it wasn't enough to save my life, and I gave my soul to the Shinigami to seal the Kyuubi within my child to save them and the village. Said the shaggy blonde to the others. A guardian is sealed within the child? Asked the amber-eyed man. Sadly, yes. The Kyuubi was under the control of an Uchiha with his accursed eyes. By the time the genjutsu was broke, it was too late. My wife had the claw of the Kyuubi sticking through her and myself, and the Shinigami was pulling its body and soul into our child and taking my soul as payment, he said with a sad chuckle. All three men nodded their heads. Two of them had been awake for part of the shinobi age and saw the different bloodlines, and they had grown to dislike the thieving bloodline as it made those that held it to believe they are gods when they are just fools. The hammer in the child's hand began to reform and become its from self. A silver glow came from Mjolnir, sent lighting throughout the cave and forest. The two kits and child never effected as they slept though their changes. The two kits grew in the child's arms, and the child's hair grow with silver highlights could be seen in their hair. The blonde with shaggy hair turned and smiled. It appears that Mjolnir awoke their hidden bloodline that slept within them. They are now truly a child of Asgard as well as a child of Uzushino, he said with a smile. Then we will return them to Asgard. For there isn't anything here for them, said the man with emerald green eyes. That shaggy blonde shook his head. No. My child does have people who do care for them, he said as they could hear yelling. Naruto! Naruto! Yelled an elderly man as several people are with him. They looked around, say they found a piece of orange fabric on a low-hanging tree branch. Lord Hokage, I found a piece of Naruto's jacket, called a woman with wild brown hair and amber eyes that looked animal-like. They will find Naruto soon. So speak with them and ask Naruto if they want to go with you or stay here, said the shaggy hair blonde as he smiled and slowly began to fade away as the chain could be heard pulling him back into the shadows and back into the belly of the Shinigami from where he had come from. The elderly man called Hokage heard the sound of chains as he looked up and saw a light coming from a cave. He held his fist to his chest as he prayed to any kami, god out there listening to his praise. Please protect Naruto and keep him safe. The two men standing on each side of the amber eye man heard the prayer for the child and looked back to the cave as the child slowly moved as the two kits shifted as well next to the child. Come on, I believe Naruto is inside the cave up there, said the Hokage as he quickly ran up the hill into the glowing light. The sight that greeted him and the others was shocking. Naruto was now 4 feet 6 inches with long golden blonde hair with silver highlights. Next to the sleeping child was 2 fox kits. They are larger than a normal kit. Hokage-sama, what should we do? Asked the woman with the wild brown hair. I don't know, said the Hokage as he just watched the lighting surround the child and 2 kits. From the shadow the 3 men stepped out. Allow Mjolnir to finish the changes on the child, came the deep and commanding voice from behind the group of people that looked at the child with fear and worry. They turned around to see the 3 men standing there watching the child from the shadows as the heavy rain fell on them. As lighting struck the ground before the man with blonde hair and the lone sky blue eye. Who are you and what do you want with Naruto? Demanded the Hokage as he was ready to fight for the child that was sleeping within the lighting. The blonde narrowed his lone at the old man. I was summoned here, for that child is my lone heir and the child of my only son, he growled out. The old man paled as he heard the man say, his only son, for Naruto was the child of one Minato Namikaze. He narrowed his gray eyes at the men. I do not know what you speak of, he said. Naruto is an orphan of our village that reported missing during bed check. He lied though his teeth as the man with black hair narrowed his green eyes at him. Do not lie to us. We know child's father is one Minato Namikaze Odinson and the child's mother is on Kushina Uzumaki, he said with his green eyes still narrowed at the group before him. The Hokage and the trusted few are the ones that had an idea of who the child's parents were widened their eyes. As the woman with the wild brown hair looked at her village leader. Why didn't you allow me to take in Naruto? I am child's godmother for Kami's sake. She growled out as her partner was now growling as he was ready for his mistress's orders. The elderly Hokage looked over at the woman before him. I couldn't. It would have raised too many questions with you having a second child in your care and one with blonde hair, he said as he looked away from her. She made a fist with her right hand as she brought it up and slapped the elderly man before her. There was an increase of orphans after that night. No one would have questioned anything. She growled out as others watched on with shock but didn't say a word, for they knew she was well in her right. For she was the person that was to protect the child from birth if anything happened to its parents. Amusement could be seen in both the emerald green eyes and the sky blue eye as they watched the woman rip into the elderly leader before them all. You couldn't allow a clan to have the village weapon in their clan, for it could have been used against the village. You listened too much to that damn old warhawk. For that damn man has made the child's life a living hell since you placed the child in the orphanage. Growled out the woman. Sume, I had to think of the well-being of the many. For the needs of the one was greatly outweighed at the time, said the elderly Hokage as his head hung low. The now-named Sume's eyes became more feral as she glared at the elderly man before her. But after time the needs of the many lessen, and you could have focused on the needs of the one. But by then it was too late. For the civilian council along with those Kami-forsaking honored elders had poisoned the villagers against the child, telling them that the child was the Kyuubi reborn, that the child died that night and the Kyuubi took the body over. For when the child was 2 was when my very own clansman told me what he heard an honored elder tell several civilians. And on my orders I told my clan that the honored elder was lying, for the child was a hero and jailer of the beast, and if anything happened to the child the beast would be free back on our village. I told them to protect the child if they ever came across it in need of aid. For the child protects us each and every day, she told him as the others nodded their head at her words. For they had heard the same thing. Why did our Anbu reports we turned in about this never go unanswered? Asked a purple hair woman with a Neko mask. The elderly Hokage turned to the other woman. What do you speak of? I never receive reports about the elders and civilian council telling villagers about Naruto holding the Kyuubi within him, he said as he was truly lost and confused about everything. It appears someone had taken your reports and replaced them with new ones to cover their trail, said the amber-eyed man as he was watching and studying the people before him. The elderly Hokage turned to the 3 men and nodded his head. It appears that way, he said as he hung his head in shame. I'm taking Naruto home with me and the council and elders can be damned. Growled out Sume as she glared at the elderly Hokage. He let out a defeated sigh, for he knew he wouldn't win with the woman before him. Once she set her mind on something, she was pretty much on a one track and will do anything in her power to get it. Fine, I'll have all the paperwork taken care of, he told her. The 3 men just arched their brows at this. Naruto will be returning home with me, said the lone-eyed blonde as he glared at the others. Sume stormed up to him, pushing her wet wild locks out of her face as she glared up at the man before her. No, you are not. Naruto will be returning home with me where he belongs. Growled out at him. The man just chuckled. I'm afraid not, for none of you will be able to handle the new power the child has awakened here tonight and will need the proper training in handling it, he told them as they all look on with shock as the man pushed past Sume and entered the cave. He knelt down, picking up the child that held the 2 fox kits in their arms. The lighting that surrounded the child lashed out but was met with the lighting coming from the man's lone eye, as he was now surrounded by lighting. Where are you taking Naruto? Asked Sume, sounding as a scared mother worried of her child as she made to reach for the child in the man's arms. But she was stopped by the man with green eyes. If you touch them both now you will die, he warned her as she watched on helplessly. This left her unsettled as an alpha and leader of her own pack. We will return to our home, and if and only if and when Naruto is ready, we will return back here, said the blonde as he turned his back to the group of people. Stranger, who are you? Asked the man with black hair up in a ponytail with a claw scar on his face. The man stopped and turned to the others. I am Thor Odinson, son of Odin and the new king of Asgard and god of thunder and father of one Minato Namikaze. The eyes of the man with the scar on his face traveled to the man with green eyes. The man with emerald green eyes smirked. I am Loki Odinson, son of Odin and brother of Thor, prince of Asgard and god of mischief and chaos and uncle of one Minato Namikaze. Finally the man's eyes landed on the lone man with amber eyes and the massive sword before him. I am Heimdall, gatekeeper of Asgard and uncle of Minato Namikaze, said Heimdall as he looked away to his king and prince. Please allow Naruto to make up his mind if he wishes to return or not. For I have many scrolls from his parents to give him, said the elderly Hokage. Loki looked over at the elderly Hokage. Then I will take them. So we will train the child, and if the child choose to return, and if only then, you will ask for the child's forgiveness, he told him. The Hokage nodded his head. Very well. Come with me and we will get the scrolls, and then you four can be on your way, he said as he was defeated. What could he do? He was an old man at just turned 70. In his youth he was the Kami no Shinobi after his sensei. But now he was an old man that had no power, and whatever little power he did have, he used to protect the child that was now be taken away from him. His ray of sunshine to be forever taken from him. He was a fool for not allowing Sume to take the child in. But his blind faith allowed him to look past everything. The heavy rain slowed down and became a light downpour. But not a single soul was out in the midnight storm. All drunks and others alike had already made their way home. The festival was now over. Sake bottles could be seen on the ground as other items as well from the party the people had before the storm had brewed and ended all festivities. Thor and Loki look at the rope around the neck of the Kyuubi with disgust as Heimdall followed his two lords before him and kept his all-seeing eye on the child, making sure no one would come from the shadows to hurt the child once more. The Hokage tower was in view of them as lighting cracked overhead and light up the Hokage mountain. Thor saw the face of his late son. A soft smile graced his lips. I wish I was awake to be here with you when you needed me to most, my son, he thought to himself as he looked down at the child down in his arms and softly smiled. They entered the tower as those still left in the building bowed to the elderly Hokage as they stood back up and watched the man surround in lighting holding the demon child in his arms. A few of the low-ranking shinobi smirked, thinking that the man was killing the child. They would have to tell the others of what they saw. But those thoughts stopped when the man with amber eyes glared at them. They froze right then and there. For looking into his eyes they saw their souls freezing in the deepest pits of hell as demons danced around them, making them suffer until the end of days. They fell to the ground gasping for air as the man turned away. He was a god in his own right, but enjoyed his quiet and simple life and just watching over his young lords. They went up to the man's office and the Hokage made quick work of gathering all the scrolls and sealing them into one massive on, and even wrote down several jutsu that child would need growing up. For he had a large chakra reserves and would need higher ranking jutsu, for the lower ones would never work. Here is everything, and just tell Naruto there are more scrolls at his parents' compound, and once her returns, and if ever he is more than welcome to live there, and tell him this old fool is sorry, said the third Hokage as he looked away. Loki took the scrolls and walked back to his brother and Heimdall. He nodded his head to Heimdall, and they vanished in a rainbow of light, only leaving a Celtic design on the hardwood floor. Sume looked at the symbol heartbroken as she lost the very last piece of her sister in everything but blood. She walked out of the office never saying a word. She headed home to hold her children and tell them a story about her friends and their child that was a hero to this village and that was spirited away to Kami knows where. To never return. If they do, it would only be a miracle. Asgard. It has been several weeks since Naruto had arrived from Konoha, and still he slept as the lighting danced around his body. The Kyuubi stayed awake and watched the watches happening to his kit as well as the two kits he had leaked his power into. It was the only gift he could give them for losing their mother and siblings to the hatred of the villagers that night. Slowly the lightning began to fade. No one was around as it was about 3 a.m. and slowly Naruto slowly opened his eyes, looking around the room that his bed was in. It didn't smell like the hospital, and it wasn't his crappy little apartment. So where in hell was he? Looking down he saw two fox kits slowly waking up with him as well. They were the size of a small dog. Hey guys, he told him, but his eyes widened in horror. Looking down on his hand he saw the seal was broken. No, no, the soft girl voice cried. What made it break? She said with fear in her voice. The two kits looked at her confused. Please don't cry. We will protect you like you protected us from the storm, said the black kit. The white kit nodded its head. Slowly Naruto relaxed as she looked at the two kits. Thank you. Do you two have names? She asked them. The black smirked and nodded her head. My name is Scatty. My Sneo is my sister. said Scatty as she pointed to her snow-white sister with a cute pink nose as Scatty's was black. Nice to meet you both. My name is Naruto, said Naruto as she didn't think much of them speaking as she seen the talking monkeys her grandpa had summoned from time to time. She looked back down at them. Do you two know where we are? She asked them. The two kids looked at each other and around the room and back to her. No, said Sneo as she was also now curious where they are now. Slowly the door to her room opened as a man with long golden hair and a single eye walks in with a candle in hand. He had heard something as he was walking the hallways. He was having trouble sleeping that night and he figured it best each on his grandson. Naruto's eyes widened in fear as the two kids were no on guard as they began to growl at the newcomer as Naruto's hand found the handle to the hammer that been with her since she fallen asleep. Calm yourself, grandson. Calm yourself, kids. I am not here to hurt you. I am your grandfather and here to protect you, came the calm but worried voice of Thor as he saw the reaction of the child and the two kids ready to protect her. Wait her? Thor stopped in his tracks and turned the light on in the room as the candle had fallen to the stone. The metal hitting the stone had drawn Loki to the room as he was up as well and heard his brother's voice. He had been speaking to someone and then the clatter of metal and stone had him worried. For it was never good when this sound was heard. Rushing into the room, Loki saw Thor with a look of shock as he looked at the young girl sitting in the bed where his nephew had been just a few hours ago. Pull himself together, he spoke. What is going on here and where is Naruto? He demanded as he looked at the frightened girl holding onto Mjolnir. Kid, calm down. You can trust the two men. Well, the one called Loki can be a huge pain in the ass. But nonetheless you can trust Thor. Came a dark but calm voice from with her mind. Slowly Naruto nodded her head. I am Naruto. Who are you and where am I and where is the old man? Questioned Naruto as she was still panicking. How can you be Naruto? Naruto is a boy? Said Thor as he was kneeling near the bed looking at the young blonde-haired girl with silver highlights that looking like lighting running through her hair. She blinked her eyes several times, as tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. It was a seal the old man put on me to protect me from being raped. For it isn't safe for a little girl in a village where people blame you for things you didn't do. She said above a whisper. Lighting could be seen flashing in Thor's single eye as Loki's eyes darkened from hearing this. You are here in Asgard and the old man let you come with us for I am your grandfather. The father of your father, said Thor as he pulled himself together. He would destroy the village later. For now his granddaughter needed him. Naruto blinked her eyes a few times looking at the man before her. My daddy? I don't have parents, I'm an orphan. She told them. Thor placed a hand on her head as Scatty snapped at him. He looked down at the black kid. I am not going to hurt my granddaughter, he said in a commanding voice as the kid moved back and wrapped around the girl along with the other kid. Your father and mother died the night you were born. If I had known about you, I would have been there sooner. But sadly there isn't any excuse for I was slumbering and just awoke when I was called by Heimdall on your 8th birthday. He said looking down at her with sad pleading eyes. You've been sleeping for 8 years? Questioned Naruto as she was shocked to hear that. Thor chuckled. No my dear. I have been sleeping for about 18 years now. I woke up 2 years early. He said as if it wasn't a big deal. Wow, that is a wild nap. I know a kid at school would nap like that if his mother would allow him. Hell, mostly all the males in his clan would sleep like that if you let them. Said Naruto as she giggled thinking of her old classmate sleeping for 20 years with spiderwebs all over him and his mother holding a frying pan in her hand smacking him. But she shook her head as she looked at the man before her that was calling himself her grandfather. Thor smiled down at her. Can I return back home? Asked Naruto as she wanted to go home. This caught both Thor and Loki off guard. Why would you want to return to that village of ungrateful vermin? Asked Loki as he wanted to honestly know. She looked over at him and smiled brightly at him. For I do have a few friends and I do have people who care for me and protect me. Like Kiba's mom. She is always saving me and feeding me, and then there is Gigi, the old man and his daughter that runs the ramen stand, and then a few of my classmates and my teacher Iruka-sensei and all the dogs from Kiba's clan as they always play with me in the woods and show me how to hunt and track. She told them as she giggled at the idea of playing with the dogs once more. Loki nodded his head as he looked to his brother and back to the girl on the bed. Before you can return, we have to teach you about your new powers, said Thor as he softly smiled at her. The one called Hokage sent a seal scroll for you to learn from as well as he wanted me to tell you he was sorry," said Thor as he softly smiled at his granddaughter. Naruto smiled up at him. "I know Gigi is sorry. He is doing his best but it's hard." "What do you mean powers?" she asked him. "Are you talking about like a bloodline limit?" she wondered out loud. Loki smirked. "No, little one, your grandfather and I are both gods. Your father was a god who sadly didn't awaken his powers in time to stop the Kyuubi and save himself and everyone," he said as he looked a little sad at only knowing his nephew for a short amount of time before he fell asleep along with his brother. "Do I have a grandma?" she asked them. Thor turned away remembering his late wife as she had passed while giving birth to their only son. "Yes, but like your mommy she passed away giving birth to your daddy," he said with a sad smile. Naruto hugged him. "It's okay. When I'm older we can talk about her and daddy," she told him. Loki smiled. "She is the light we have been needed here," he thought to himself as he watched them. "When will I return back home?" asked Naruto as she wanted to know. "What age do you become a shinobi?" asked Loki looking at the girl. "At 13 years old, is when we are given the final exam," said Naruto as she smiled at the man. "Then on the eve of your 13th birthday we will return back to the village," said Thor. Naruto smiled. "Good, but I want to keep I'm a girl's secret until I can trust my future teammates," she told both men. "As you wish, princess. Also it is normal for men here to have long hair as I saw it is there," said Thor as he grinned at her. She nodded her head. Her stomach growled. Softly she blushed. Thor laughed with joy in his voice. "Let us get you something to eat," he said picking her up and leaving to the kitchen and to the future that awaited them. Loki stood before Naruto looking down at her. "We need to do something about those seals you have on you," he told her as he looked at the broken seal on her hand and then the one he found on her shoulder and the base of her neck. "What do you mean, seals? I only have the one on my stomach that I found a couple years ago while I learned to use chakra and the one on my hand to hide my true gender," said Naruto as she looked up at her uncle confused as Thor just watched on from where he sat. Loki arches a brow to this. "Well, it appears someone placed 2 other seals on you," he told her as he placed his hand on the seals on her right shoulder as it glowed, heating up making Naruto cry out as it broke, and then he moved his hand to her neck and did the same thing. Naruto fell on the ground from the pain of the seals being broken and there was a mental snap in her mind as if the floodgates had been broken open and now she understood all she was learning in the academy as well. She began to grow once more, her bones shifting and growing. A soundless scream escaped her lips as she curled up into a ball on the floor passing out once more. Thor stood up rushing to the girl as she fell to the ground crying. "What the hell, Loki?" he growled out as he looks at his brother. Loki narrowed his eyes at Thor. "It appears someone placed a seal on Naruto to stop her from growing normally like other children and with her awakening her goddess blood, she will be growing even more. For when we were her age, we stood taller than a normal 8-year-old. As well the other seal appeared to try and keep her from understanding and to learn at a slower rate than the other children. So it appears someone has been moving in the shadows behind the old man that she trusts. For the seal style was different from what the old man placed on the girl," he told him as he looked up to the ceiling. Thor picks Naruto up as he takes her to her room and calls for the doctor to come and check on her. Within her, Kurama is looking at all the changes and all the seals that once held her back in her mind finally begin to break. Seals he had wanted to break since she was an infant, but feared it would have killed her back then. He was happy for once about the troublesome god, for he had done something right for once. Hidden leaf. Deep into the bowels of Konoha a man sat at his desk as he was looking at a scroll that was labeled Naruto. "Where in the world is the Kyuubi brat?" growled out the man as he looked at the seals that he had placed on her with a tracking seal and it showed she wasn't anywhere near Konoha. As he placed the scroll down on his desk it begins to glow a light green before bursting into green flames and laughter could be heard in his office. He looked around with his single eye as he pulled the bandages from his left eye to use the stolen Sharingan eye. But he couldn't find any genjutsu or anyone in his office with him. Asgard. A smirk crossed Loki's lips. As he followed behind Thor, he needed to know what effects those seals had on his niece. Naruto slept for another couple of days as she adjusted to her new changes once more. The fox kids slept with her, never allowing anyone close to her. "It appears we are going to have to train her with those 2 kids," said Thor as he looks over at his brother. Loki nods his head. Yes, this will be troublesome. For what I saw in that village, there is only one clan that works with animals. Well, besides the one clan that works with bugs. He said as he shivered at the idea of having bugs crawling around under their skin. Yes, that woman had a fire in her that would be good for Naruto to learn from. Said Thor as he thought back to Sume. Loki looked over at Thor and nodded his head to this. We might have to speak with the feral woman about training the girl, or if she could give us a few tips about how to train her. He said with a thoughtful expression on his face as he looked out the window in Naruto's room. Then we will speak with her after Naruto has grown into her powers and is able to control them. Said Thor as he turned and walked out of the bedroom. Loki just nodded his head as he thought about the feral woman that stood up to him and his brother. A smirk played across his face as he turned as well and left the room. 3 years later, 11-year-old Naruto walks through the palace heading to the dining hall to meet with her grandfather and uncle. "Ya have been doing well with your training with Mjolnir and have done well learning Kenjutsu," said Kurama. Flashback. It was 3 days and Naruto still slept. But in her dreams, she found herself in a room that looked like a cave with a giant fox laying there looking down at her. "It is about time you have found your way to me," said the fox as he smirked at her. Naruto fell on her ass looking up at the fox. Who are you?" she asked him with her eyes wide as saucers. The giant fox before her smirks. "I am one of the 9 guardians of Asgard, as I was part of the 10 tails when the damn accursed rabbit goddess stole the forbidden fruit of the sacred tree of the Asgard. As she ate the fruit, it set free the 10 tails within her and awoke an old ability called chakra that humans had forgotten about. But the use of chakra in the past wasn't as powerful as it is now." "Oh wow," said Naruto as she looked up at him with shock. "So you are my protector?" she asked him. He nodded his head. "Yes, but I haven't been able to protect you like I have been meant to," he said as he turned his head from her as his 9 mighty tails danced behind him. Naruto softly smiled up at him. "Please don't be sad. I know if you could have broken out of the seal placed on my belly, you would have saved me from all those angry villagers and the damn old freak wrapped in bandages," she told him with the same soft smile on her lips. He looked up at her with shock in his eyes as his mouth went to open to say something but closed it as he was shocked by this little girl. Only 8 years old and already wise way beyond her years. Maybe it had a lot to do with her goddess blood awakening, or maybe those seal being broken cleared up her foggy mind from all the haze that was clouding up all her thinking and judgment. But one thing didn't change. She still loved her Gigi and she really wanted to return to see Sume and play with her Ninken. "Whatever my uncle Loki did, it cleared my mind up and I feel a lot stronger than I have ever felt in my whole life," said Naruto as she looked around the cave-like room and saw the weapons all around the place. "What are those?" she asked, pointing to the swords. This pulled Kurama out of his thoughts and he looked over at the twin black and white chakra blade swords. "Those belong to my past keeper and your mother Kushina Uzumaki. She was famous in the 3rd SWW. She was a master Kenjutsu user from Uzu as well as a seal's mistress. She surpassed your father in seals as well as the old pervert that trained your father in the shinobi arts," he said with a ghost of a smile on his muzzle. "My mother once held you?" asked Naruto with wide eyes. He nodded his head. "Yes, she held me after her and your great-aunt Mito Uzumaki Senju. She was my first jailer as she was the one first to save me from the damn Uchiha who cased a genjutsu on me while I was sleeping up in the mountains. I was sleeping until I was needed by my masters. But it didn't happen that way and I was forced into battle with the first Hokage. But his wife had other plans and sealed me within her, and on her death bed sealed me within your mother. For her children and grandchildren were too weak and weak-willed to handle me within them. I would had drove them mad. Like how my little brother does to his host," he said with a chuckle as he thought about Shukaku the crazy one-tail. Her eyes just grew in size as she looked up at him. "I am related to the first Hokage?" she asked him with shock lacing her voice as she looked like she was about to pass out from learning this about her family she thought she never had. 3 of his tails moved and wrapped around her, catching her as she was falling. She didn't even know she was falling as she was too much in shock from learning this. A smirk played across his muzzle once more. "Child, you are the daughter of the 4th Hokage like the king had told you," he told her as he just watched and studied her reaction for this. "I still can't believe he is my father." I had forgotten the fourth Hokage's name was Minato, as my mind was so foggy at times and thinking was so hard," said Naruto with a cute little pout on her face. "Well, now you know. Your parents were powerful. Your father a Kage and a son of a god. Your mother a daughter of a Kage of a fallen village and the grandniece of the wife of the first Hokage. As well, your mother was a princess of the fallen village of Uzu, as her mother was the queen of Uzu, as her father was the Azukage," he tells her. "How do you know this?" questioned Naruto, looking up at the Biju laying before her. "One does learn a lot as they are sealed within someone," he told her. Naruto nodded her head, accepting his answer to her question. "So why was my grandmother a queen and not my grandfather?" she asked him, as she wanted to know this. "The reason is the woman is the rule of the heart and their love is gentle and fierce. As for man rules with his mind and is more geared towards war and protecting. So the Uzumaki woman who are of the royal family would take over and rule the island and her people with a gentle and justice heart. But could be demons on the battleground when someone threatened her children. While the men of the royal family became the Kage to gild and protect their village and her troops to protect her people and queen. It is like a game of chess. But for the king protects the queen this way around," he told her, as she just nodded her head once more. "This just drives me to want to be Hokage even more. For my father was seen as the greatest of all the Hokages of creation of the village," said Naruto as she curls up in his tails. He just smirked at her. "I'll keep you to your word, kid," he told her. She smiled up at him. She was happy that the mightiest of all the Bijus believed in her. "Thank you, but may I know your name?" she asked him, not knowing to call him, and she knew that Kyuubi no Yoko or Kyuubi no Kitsune was more of a title than a name for him. "My name is Kurama. It was given to me by my father, the Sage of Six Paths," said the now named Kurama. Naruto looked up at him with awe. "But I thought he was just a myth," she told him. He smirked and shook his head no. No, he was real, as his daughter was the founder of the Might Uzumaki clan. As his two sons of his first wife were the founders of the Uchiha and Senju clans. He told her with a playful smirk as her eyes looked about to pop out. "Well, hell, that is wild," said Naruto, as she didn't know what to think about this little history lesson. "Even though the Uchiha might be of his blood son, they are nothing to me but bastards that crave power and will kill anyone to get what they want," spat Kurama as he let out a growl at that part. "Yeah, I never like how the clan leader looks at me. He creeps me out," said Naruto, as she thinks of every time Fugaku looks at her while she is running around the village and running from his little minions. "Yeah, they are a clan to keep away from. For darkness always rolls off of them when they look at you, and mostly that monkey Fugaku. His wife. She always seems sad when she is around you," said Kurama. Naruto nodded her head. "Yeah, she is always sad when she sees me and tries to give me food and stuff. But I'm too scared to take it, for you never know if she did something to it," she said as she looks down at her hands. "I guess I just have issues trusting them as I do several other people," she said as an afterthought. Kurama nodded his head. "You're not wrong for trusting them. But I believe you have been picking up on my feelings for them as well. And Uchiha is the reason your mother and father are dead, and I was sealed within you," he said, looking away as guilt still weighed heavy on his heart for killing his prince and his bride. For he never had hard feelings over being sealed within Kushina. They had gotten along pretty well once they talked to each other, and she learned he wasn't a mindless beast that wanted to kill people. Damn Shikaku. He really needed to kick his baby brother's ass for this stereotype he created for all of them. "What do you mean an Uchiha was at fault for the life I have now?" asked Naruto as she was pulling herself up to him. "Kid, it would be best I tell you this story once you are older. For I have said too much already, and this could affect you in a negative way, and that is something we do not want for you," said Kurama as he looked over into the shadows as he saw the ghost of her parents sleeping, just waiting their time to meet her and speak to her for the final time. Naruto nodded her head to this understanding. For she was still too young, and it could drive her down a path that would lead to self-destruction, and that wouldn't be good. "I understand, but I would like to know someday," said Naruto as she relaxed back into his tails, softly yawning as she felt tired from all that has happened. "I will, kid. Get some rest. You have gone through another change and you need to rest now, and I will handle all the pain so you can sleep easy," said Kurama, as Naruto just nodded her head as she closed her eyes and fell asleep once more. End of flashback. Yeah, I know I could have just put it in the normal storyline. But nah. Loki watched Naruto and the two now young foxes walk alongside her to the table that they sat at. She appeared to be lost in her own thoughts. "Good morning, granddaughter," greeted Thor as he smiled at the blonde-haired girl with silver lighting highlights running through her hair, and she now stood at 5'5". Naruto blinked her eyes and smiled at her grandfather. "Good morning, old man." "Morning, uncle," she said with a playful smile, as it always made Thor sulk when she calls him that. "Naruto, please don't call me that," whined Thor. "Sorry, grandpa, it is just fun teasing you at times," said Naruto as she sits down to eat. "My morning training with Mjolnir is going well," she told the two men as she went back to eating. "Good, that is good to hear. How about the training from those old programs from my late friend Tony?" asked Thor. She looks up. "It's going well. I have been working on a special mesh armor for when I return back home. I kind of got the idea from his Iron Man suit," she said as she thinks about the special iron she found and has been working with, and pushing chakra and seals have made it pretty much indestructible. "How is your magic coming along?" questioned Loki as he studies her. With a wink she turned into him. "It is going well. I do not need to speak the spell anymore, also I can do it at will now," said Naruto as she grins at him. "It appears you have become as cunning as the fox sealed in your gut," said Loki as he smirks. "Yeah, and Kurama still says you're a huge pain in the ass," said Naruto as Kurama laughs within her seal. "As well, I have been giving Skida and Sneo Kurama's chakra to make them stronger and powerful," she told them. "We are as strong as what they call a genin. When we return, we hope to be stronger," said Skadi. "Sister, quiet it, we are not at that level yet," scolded Sneo as she nips at her older sister. "But Sneo, we are. You just don't want them knowing," whined Skadi as she pouted at her baby sister who wants to keep everything secret. "Your baby sister has a point. It is good to have people believe you are weaker than what you are," said Thor as he had a thought look in his eyes. "Always use your mind, and the gift that Kurama is giving you is for you to protect his kid as you are out in this world, while he is sealed within her," said Loki as he looked at the two young foxes who nodded their heads to him. "After you finish eating you will return to your studies, for you only have 3 more years before you return," he told her as she nodded her head and went back to her meal as the two foxes ate as well. October 10th. It was the morning of Naruto's 13th birthday, and Sarutobi and Sume sat in his office. "Naruto returns today. I want her to come and live with me," said Sume as she narrows her eyes at the old man. "But, Sume," started Sarutobi. "No, you listen to me. I have a copy of Kushina's and Minato's will, and I am her legal guardian, and you have no damn say in it. If you try to fight me, I will take my clan and leave this village," growled out Sume. No, we can't lose your clan as well," said Sarutobi in a defeated tone as he let out a sigh. "Naruto, he will be able to live with you and your clan when you deem it fit for him to move into his parents' clan home," he told her. A smirk appeared on Sume's face. "Good, I'm glad we understand each other," she told him. As Sarutobi was going to say something, he saw that the crystal blue sky outside began to become dark as a surprise storm quickly rolling in. Thunder could be heard as the villagers quickly began running for cover to get out of the rain that was about to fall upon them. Lighting began to dance around the clouds as a massive lightning strike hit right outside the Hokage tower. Sarutobi shot out of his chair and ran to his window, for he heard screams coming from outside. His Anbu quickly went outside as he followed after them. "What is going on?" called Sarutobi as he looked at his gathered shinobi. A voice came from inside the lighting as it slowly began to fade away. "Really, Gigi? You really think I would allow my lighting to hit someone?" questioned a male voice from within the fading lighting. There, standing there, was Naruto with the 3 men that had spirited him away about 5 years ago. "Naruto?" questioned a female voice from behind the old man. Sarutobi turned to look to see Sume standing there trembling with tears in the corner of her eyes. Naruto smiled at her. "Hey Sume Ne-chan," he said with a soft smile on his face as he saw the older woman that had been taking care of him as much as she could growing up. Sume pushed past Sarutobi and ran over to Naruto, pulling him into a fierce hug, but blinked and looked over his shoulder when she heard growling coming from behind him. There behind him stood 2 foxes that were the size of a miniature pony, larger than her partner. "Naruto, are those the 2 kits you had with you that night you left here?" she asked him. Naruto chuckled softly. "Yeah, Skida and Sneo are my 2 partners, and I was wondering if you would help me train more with them?" he asked her as she held him even tighter. Sume held him, pushed herself away from him with a huge smile on her face. You know I would love to train you. Maybe with you training with me, it will get Kiba off his ass and being training harder with Akamaru. She said with her feral grin on her face. But her eyes shifted behind him once more. They looked over Thor and Heimdall and just lingered on Loki for several seconds. Before she looked down at Naruto. We were hoping you would agree on taking over the training with him and his ninkitsunes, said Thor with a grin. Loki just coughed into his hand. We have done all we could from old scrolls one came back and found and bought from other villages and here from the ninja supply shops, he said as his green eyes met her amber eyes. A slight blush crept onto Soon's cheeks. I know of those scrolls. They're not anything that compares my clan's training, said Sume with a grin. Besides Naruto, you're going to be living with me from now on, she told the boy that stood in her arms still on his shoulder. Naruto looked up at her with shock written across his face. Why? Was the only thing he could ask her. She smiled down at her. I was told the day you were born you had died alongside your mother and that Minato had used an orphan to seal the Kyuubi into him. But every time I saw you, I knew I was lied to. But no one would allow me to take you home with me after I began putting two and two together. So I did the next best thing and told my clansmen to protect you and be kind to you, for you are a hero to this village for living and breathing each day keeping the beast at bay, she told him as now tears began to roll down her cheeks. Naruto was shocked and pulled her into another hug, and without knowing it, he began to cry into her shoulder as he was now towering over her at about 5 feet 11, almost hitting 6 feet. Yes, Naruto is going to be tall for a girl, for she does have goddess blood flowing through her body. I am your godmother, and when your godfather enters the village soon, I'm beating his ass and having him meet you, Sume whispered into Naruto's ear. Naruto just nodded his head as he cried. He had a family member, someone that wanted him, but she was not allowed to raise and love him. But now things have changed, and she is fighting to have him in her life and her family life. He was friends with Kiba growing up, so it will be okay living with him. Sarutobi hung his head. I'm sorry, Naruto. Forgive this foolish old man. At the time I allowed the need of the many to outweigh the need of the one. Then when things had gotten better, I was a fool believing the villagers would change, and just a blind old fool, he said, trailing off, as he could feel Thor and Loki glaring at him and the one called Heimdall glaring at him as well. But with his all-seeing his eyes he knew what the old man did and did all he could try to save the child as much as he could. So he couldn't blame the old man. Naruto looked up from crying on Soon's shoulder. It's okay, Gigi. I learned from Grandpa Thor and Uncle Loki that one that leads must do things that will hurt. But it is something that a king or god has to do what is needed, he said with a smile. Even though Loki and Thor didn't like it, they knew what the old man did was what he had to. Well, enough of this. The academy will be starting soon, and you are back early before the final exam, said Sarutobi. Yes. We wanted Naruto to come back early so he would be able to train with Sume, said Loki as he looked at the woman once more. Yes, but Loki or I will be here in the village at all times watching over Naruto, said Thor as he narrowed his eyes at Sarutobi. Sarutobi nodded his head. That is fine. I have an empty house that you two can live in, but Naruto will be living in the main house with me and my family, said Sume as she pulled the boy along the street. Let's get you to school and checked in with Iruka-sensei and have you meet your annoying brother Kiba once more, she said as she turned her head and winked at Loki. Thor grinned as he looked to his brother. It appears she likes you, brother, he said with a booming laugh, but then stopped as he looked at Sarutobi. We have a lot to talk about, he said. Yes, let us go into my office so we can talk in private, said Sarutobi as he turned and walked back into the tower that stood tall and strong behind him. Shinobi Academy. Naruto, you have grown tall and strong while you have been away, said Sume. Naruto grinned looking down at her while rubbing a hand behind his head. Well, yeah, I went thought like 2 awakenings. For when my god blood awoke that night, and then a few days later my uncle Loki broke the seals that some bastard placed on me while I was a baby to make me a simple fool who wouldn't understand anything and stunt my growth. After those seals were broken I grow once more in the fog. I had in my mind cleared up and I understood everything, and I know why I was hated and what is in the seal that is on my belly, he said with a soft smile with a faraway look in his eyes. Sume made a fist as she had an idea who could have done it. But for now she would have to gather evidence on the bastard to take him down. I'm glad you know it all now. As well, how are things going with you and your prisoner? She questioned as she looked around as the villagers had all vanished from sight as the sky was still thundering and lightning dancing around as if it was following the young blonde that walked alongside her. It's all fine. We are friends, said Naruto as he looked at her with a smile. He is the reason my two foxes are the way they are now. He gave them his chakra to make sure that I will be protected in the physical world as he heals and protects me from within. He told her with a smile. Sume nodded her head. Yeah, your mom always said she got along with him as well. She said as they arrived at the academy as the student began rushing in as it now began to rain, and a lightning bolt stuck next to the tree that Naruto would spend his time at growing up. Just swinging on the lone swing. A ghost of a smile could be seen on his lips as he looks over at the swing. Sume looks over at where the lightning had stuck. Her eyes wide. That is insane. This storm isn't acting normal. She said to herself. Well, it's reacting off of me. For I brewed this storm when we came back to the village. I'm just playing a little prank on the villagers. As you will see different color lightning bolts hitting places and the buildings are changing color or the people it hits will have different color hair. Naruto said with a smirk. She looked at him all wide-eyed. You can control it like that? She questioned him. Well, yeah. My grandpa is the god of lightning and thunder. I received his powers and my own. Naruto said with a grin. You're not going to tell me, are you? Asked Sume as she saw the twinkle in his eyes. Nope, chirped Naruto as he opened the door for his godmother. Sume nodded her head and led him to the classroom that the Hokage told her he would be going to and what class he would be joining when he returned, and that was her son's class. Walking down the hallways to a set of stairs, she leads him up to the second floor and down the hallways to room 222. Here we are, brat, said Sume as she slid the door open. Kiba shot up from his seat when he saw his mother walk into the classroom with some papers in her hand. Hey mom, what are you doing here? He questioned as he looked down at her. Sume grinned looking up at her son. I am just bringing your brother to his first day of class since he just returned today. She told him. Kiba looked at her confused at this. There was only one person that she would call her son and he had vanished so long ago. Just then a tall teenage boy walks into the classroom with long golden blonde hair with silver lightning highlights in his hair with bangs framing his face. His hair went down to the center of his back and that with it in the high ponytail he wore it in. He had on a long black duster with a black wore it in. He had on a long black duster with a black hoodie under it cover his upper body, so no one know how built he was, and he had on black cargo pants with black boots on. He has two swords on his back under his duster and a kunai pouch on his right leg, and they figured a supply pouch under the duster. He turned to look at them and there was the most stunning crystal blue eyes they had ever seen looking up at them. Naruto? Questioned Kiba as he then saw the two large foxes standing on either side of the boys' sides. Hey Kiba, said Naruto with a grin on his face. Iruka looked shocked to his missing student. Naruto, it is good to see once more. Please take a seat anywhere. He told the boy. Naruto just nodded his head and walked up to the last row of desk that we empty and sat down in the center seat as Skadi and Sneo took the seats on either side of him. Man, it is good to see you again, said Kiba as he turned and looked up at his old friend. Yeah, I have been away training with my family for the past few years and missed a lot that has happened in the village, said Naruto as he looked around the classroom and saw everyone was looking up at him and his two foxes. So it looks like you have two partners now, said Kiba as he looked over the two large foxes. Yeah, I have been training alongside them for the past few years and they are my little sisters. With a grin, but Sume Mama said I will be being my training with you after school today, he said as Kiba went wide-eyed looking down at his mother and saw her grin and just nodded his head. Well, it isn't going to be easy in Akamaru and I will kick your ass, said Kiba with a grin. Naruto grinned back. Skadi and Sneo will shock you with our teamwork, he told the dog boy that sat under him. Well pups, you two be good and I will see you after school, said Sume as a lightning bolt hit the academy. Everyone jumped when the lights flickered and when the room darkened for a brief moment one could have sworn they saw lightning dancing around Naruto's body and eyes glowed from the lightning. Hokage Tower. Thor narrowed his eyes at the old man. Did you know of the two seals on Naruto's right shoulder and neck? He asked the old man before. Once he sat down and the room glowed a soft blue color, as then it glowed a green color, and several people fell from hiding places and several seals exploded around the room. It appears you had spies in your office. Inhuman, a seal from, said Loki with a grin on his face, as his Anbu took the new Anbu away. It appears you are right, said Sarutobi as he let out a sigh. No, I didn't know about the seal on her shoulder and neck. I only placed the one on her hand when she couldn't hide that she was a girl from the villagers. When did you find out? He asked them. When she awoke from her sleep, when we brought her back to Asgard, said Thor. I found the seals as I was training her in use of magic. I found the seals and broke them. As well, I sent a message to the one that placed the seals on her. So with you looking confused at this, you were not the one that got my message, said Loki with a wicked smirk on his face. I see, said Sarutobi as he looked out his window. It appears my old friend has been up to more things than I knew, said Sarutobi as he let out another sigh. I know Minato and Kushina had homes here in the village. But for now Naruto, she will be living with Sume, and we want to look at the homes, so see what all we have to do, said Thor as he looks at the lightning strike a building across from them with a smirk. It appears Naruto has mixed your trickster magic with my lightning, he told his bother as they saw the build have flower begin growing from it. Sarutobi looked on with shock. That was Naruto's doing? He questioned the two men. Yes, she is just getting a little payback on all those fools down there, said Loki with a smirk. But should we have Naruto tell Sume now that she is a girl, or have her live in hiding? Asked Thor. If the girl trust her, then I'm fine with it. But why was she dressed like a boy and looked like a boy when she arrived here? Questioned Sarutobi as he wanted to know. Naruto fears what will happen when her secret gets out. She is powerful as it stands now. She is Kage level in skill and at Jonin level in battle and experience, said Thor with a proud smile. Yes, Naruto has already earned her true ranking in battle, but wants to grow kids her age and build bonds with them. For she doesn't want to be seen as a tool or weapon just yet, said Loki. She is Jonin level in battle experience? Questioned Sarutobi as he looked shocked and had aged several years before them. Yes, we had to go into battle to protect our world and this world from outside attackers. As we are guardians of this world, with the tail beast being sealed away, they are not able to fulfill their roles, said Thor looking annoyed as Loki just smirked. They are guardians, not demons? Questioned Sarutobi as he looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Yes, they are guardians, but the one tail has gone mad and has given the others a bad name. So they embrace it and fight back. Well, but for the 2 tail and 8 tail and maybe 4 tails and 5 tails, they just want to be left alone. So they work with their humans in hope of being set free, said Loki. If we are here on Earth, all the tail guardians are to protect us, said Thor with a smile. They are the protectors of Asgard, as they are from the 10 tails that had gone mad and sealed away so long ago, he said looking away. The beast his late sister had sent to kill his wife after the birth of his son. But Thor shook it off and looked away from the others. I will be keeping my all-seeing eye on the princess of Asgard and Uzu, said Heimdall as his amber eyes flashed with the lightning that flashed behind me. All just nodded their heads to this. Shinobi Academy. Naruto listened to Iruka-sensei go over the history of the shinobi land and all the clans of each nation. But he just yawned, for he had learned this from the program's Tony Stark AI had though her when she had arrived in Asgard. She had even learned about the world that was before the time of shinobi, and she was fascinated by it. She was glad Tony had all the music from back then until now all saved, and had something that was called an MP3 player that she loaded it on and slipped on the earbuds she found and learned to build after they broke a few times, and began listening to Eminem's Miss You, as she liked all kinds of music. Iruka saw that Naruto wasn't listening and looked to be falling asleep and quickly threw a piece of chalk at the boy's forehead. But his eyes opened wide as a strange weapon appeared in the boy's hand and a loud bang came from it. They all watched the chalk explode before their very eyes. With a shaky voice, Iruka-sensei asked the question that everyone wanted to ask right now. What is that thin thing? He asked Naruto. Naruto looked down at his hands and smiled as he thought about the aunt he never got to know and how Thor had saved her guns after her death. This is a gun from time long forgotten to this world of shinobi, he said as it vanished back into the seal on his wrist. They just nodded their heads as they didn't know what to think. as it looked like the gun had fired lightning or something from it. They didn't know and didn't want to ask, for they feared the answer they would get from the boy. The final bell for the day had just rung before Iruka-sensei could go back to his long-winded lecture. Kiba stood up and turned to Naruto. "So are you ready, man?" he asked the boy behind him. "Yeah, let's go, but we might have to stop at the Hokage tower to get my grandfather and uncle," said Naruto as he left the classroom, as the Sasuke fangirls slowly began to follow after him, forgetting their undying love for their Sasuke-kun. They had found a new crush for the time being. Oh, fangirls, you got to love to hate them. But Sakura didn't follow the others as she looked to her one and true love. "Sasuke-kun, would you like to come for dinner?" she asked him. "No," said Sasuke as he pushed past her and left the academy to go off and do his private training. He needs to get stronger. Standing at the gates of the academy was Thor and Loki chatting with Sume, as all the mothers looked at the two gods with lust-filled eyes, as they would sell their souls to Yami just to have a one-night stand with them or even marry them. "Hey Grandpa, Uncle Loki and Sume Mama," said Naruto as he walked alongside Kiba as the fangirls shadowed them. "Hey Mom," said Kiba as he looked at the two men that stood with his mom. Something about the raven hair man left him feeling a little unsettled. But it might be how the man is looking at his mother or something. But Naruto trusted this man, so he would leave his judgment for later. As for the blonde hair man with the single eye, he looked like an older version of Naruto and the late 4th Hokage. Naruto stood before Thor and Loki grinning. "I would like you to meet Kiba and Akamaru. You too, I like you to meet my grandfather Thor and my uncle Loki," he said with a huge grin. All the women eavesdropping smirked when they heard the name of the two men. Maybe if they tried to gain the favor of the demon brat, they could snag one of the two men that seemed to carry for the thing. "Hey, nice to meet you," said Kiba as he bowed, and Akamaru just barked. Skull and Hattie would eat that puppy and maybe Soon's partner. Loki though to himself, as maybe his grandson's bloodline would make Soon's partner's bloodline stronger. Naruto saw the look in his uncle's eyes. I don't know if mixing their blood with theirs would be a good idea, he voiced as Loki looks at Naruto with a grin. "Who's to say? Your cousins would make them stronger," said Loki with a shrug of his shoulders as his green eyes flashed amber for just a second. Something if someone wasn't watching would have never seen. Sume and Kiba looked at the two a little confused as Thor just laughed. "We will see if those two would make their hound's bloodline stronger," he said with his grin. "But they are not as bad as Fenrir as he snaps at anyone," said Sneo as she lets out a growl. "Who's Fenrir?" questioned Kiba as he was confused. A shadow covers Loki's face. "My son from my late lover. He made a little too much trouble and was turned into a large wolf and had two sons that are very strong and powerful wolves that Naruto and his kids have been training with while in Asgard," he said, looking away and up to the cloudy sky. "It's fine, uncle. I did get my payback on Fenrir," said Naruto with a grin as Loki looked at him with wide eyes. "What did you do?" asked Loki as he was now worried. "I chained his ass down only for his sons being able to break the seals that hold the seals, and they told him he was screwed and ran off," said Naruto with a smirk. Loki paled at this. "Well, I will not be seeing my son anytime soon," he said as he turned away. "Maybe I should have Skull and Hattie come and visit," he said as an afterthought. The two Inuzuka just watched the three before them as if they had gone mad. "What do you mean you have grandchildren that are wolves?" questioned Sume as they had been walking thought the village being shadowed by fangirls of all ages. "It's a long story, but I am able to shapeshift, and my son like a dumb ass pissed off our father and was punished and turned into the animal that I am the guardian of," said Loki as he turned into a massive black wolf with glowing green eyes. Soon's eyes widen at seeing him shapeshift, as she looks at Thor to see if he is able to do that same thing. "No, my lady, I am not as skilled as my brother. I am more built for battle," said Thor as he just grins, and Loki smirks as he shifts back to normal. "Damn," said Kiba as he looks at Naruto. "I can do solid henges but nothing like my uncle," said Naruto as he grins and turns into a gold fox the same size of his sisters that walked alongside him. Kuromaru sniffs Loki as his single eye widens. "He smells like a wolf," he growls out. Sume looks down at her partner as she watches him walk over to Naruto and do the same thing. "The kid smells of fox and something else," he said as he saw something flash in the pup's eyes as he said that. but didn't say thing more, for there was a reason for the pup to be doing what he was. Naruto shifted back to normal as the civilians began to slowly panic at seeing him as a fox. Lighting danced around him as he shifted back to normal, and Loki was now a man walking next to his nephew, glaring at people as Stormbreaker appeared in Thor's hands as he felt the shift in the people around his grandson. "Don't think about it," growled out Thor as people took a large step back as lighting struck the ground before him and danced around on his skin as his eyes glowed from the lightning. "Ignore those fools, they wouldn't make a move against the Inuzuka clan." Sume growled out as she glared at all the fools before her. People quickly moved away from them as Kuromaru let out a low howl and other Inuzukas appeared around them as if they'd been following them in the shadows. "Sume-sama," said a woman with long raven hair with wild brown eyes as she knelt before her clan head. "I need a detail to protect Naruto while he is in the village for now on," said Sume. The woman looked up with a smile on her face as she looked over at the young blonde. "Naruto-sama, it is good you have returned. We all have missed you," said the woman as she vanished once more into the shadows. Her and her team are now going to watch over him. Naruto blinked a few times. "Sume-mama, you didn't have to do that. I would have been fine," he said as he was worried now making trouble for his new family. "Nonsense. You are part of our pack and we look out for our own," said Sume as the others paled that heard that. "You have the aid of my armies if anyone tried anything against my grandchild," said Thor as the lighting was slowly fading away and Stormbreaker was now on his back. "Brother, I will be staying here for now," said Loki as he was worried for when they returned things would get bad for the girl. Thor just nodded his head at this. "Fine. Anyways, you can send shadows to help me when I needed it," said Thor as he let out a deep breath. Loki nodded his head as the group finished their walk to the Inuzuka clan compound. There stood two young Inuzukas guarding the gates. "Lady Sume," said one of the boys with wild brown hair. The other boy nodded his head at her. "Aki and Haru. This is Naruto and his grandfather Thor and his uncle Loki. They will be living with us now. Well, these two are Naruto-kun's nin kitsunes Sneo and Skida. Both sisters and little sisters to Naruto-kun," said Sume as both boys looked at her with wide eyes. They remember hearing stories from their parents about a boy who keeps the village safe that was spirited away on his birthday to lands unknown. "Hi, nice to meet you, all three of you," said Aki and Haru as one. As they both looked alike. Just the other one kept his wild brown hair under a bandana. "Come along, let's show you two to where you're going to be staying and then Naruto," said Sume as she looks at the boy before her. "I'll show you to your room and then we will begin training," she told him. Naruto just nodded his head to this. Sume showed them to a house that was just across from the main house. But it was smaller than all the other house. It was a small two-bedroom that was used as a guest house, and at times the young married couples would live there before they had their first child. "This is where you boys would be staying," she told them. "It is a lovely house," said Thor as he looked around and was shocked to see that it was fully stocked with food for them. Sume smirks. "We always have food stocked here. For someone is always crashing here when visiting, or one of the men are in the doghouse with their wives. So they will be upset they will have to stay in the kennel for now." She laughed. "Well, let's hope they can handle that until Naruto is ready to move to his new home after his training is done here," said Loki with his own smirk. Kiba looked at them. "What do you mean? Naruto is going to be living here for now on," he said as he was standing before the blonde like an older brother protecting a younger sibling. "I'm not allowing him returning to that dump he had been living in before you guys took him away 5 years ago," he growled out. This shocked Sume and even Naruto, as they never seen Kiba behave this way. Yes, he get mad when guys flirt with them, as he thought were under his sister and female cousins. Sume just arched a brow looking over at the blonde as she saw something that was a little off about the boy. He did look a little feminine, but hell, the Hyuga males looked girly to her. So she just wrote it off as him just being overprotective. "Naruto will be living in either his father's or mother's compound. Whichever one that is better suited for our needs," said Loki as he studied the boy before him. "He will take care of her once she lets it slip, she is a girl," he thought to himself as he looked back to Sume. "Then let him take the Namikaze compound, as it is near our compound, and if anything happens Naruto can call for help from us," said Sume. Thor and Loki nodded their heads to this. "Then in the morning we will go look at both compounds," said Thor as he needed to see if they needed Naruto or not to open the place. I'll send a shadow clone with you and some blood. For knowing my parents there will be a blood seal," said Naruto as he paused and nodded his head. Kurama said, "I do need to send blood for mom and dad used blood seals and chakra seals mixed into it, and I can't miss school to play around with you too," he said with a grin. All eyes are now on Naruto as they looked at him wide-eyed. "Who's Kurama?" asked Kiba as he was puzzled. "Sume is now sweating bullets." Naruto grinned. "Kurama is the nine-tailed Kyuubi no Kitsune or Kyuubi no Yoko, whichever one people like to call him. But yeah, Kurama was sealed within me when I was born by my father after my mother was too weak and dying and wouldn't be able to survive having him resealed into her," he said as he looked down as he waited for Kiba to start screaming and yelling about her being a freak and demon and so on. "Oh, is that all? Well, that does explain why you smell like a fox at times. But you're still my best friend and my brother. You're just the jailer and not the demon," said Kiba as all just looked at the boy as he explained it so simple, and he just smiled and wrapped his right arm around Naruto's neck. Naruto just grinned. "Well, if he takes that well, maybe he will take me being a girl well as well," she thought to herself as she pushed him off. "Come on man, get off of me." He laughed at him. Sume grinned. "Just like who you two always were growing up," she said with a tender smile on her face. Thor and Loki just watched them. "I'm glad you have a good friend here, Naruto," said Thor, it was making him miss his friends from so long ago. Well, one friend he knew he could just dig up and he might still be alive. But would this world survive a Deadpool running? That was something he wasn't too sure about. Loki looks over at his brother as if he knew what he was thinking. "Don't you think about digging up that fool," he hissed out. Everyone looks at the two brothers wondering what they're talking about. Naruto had an idea of who it was. For she had seen videos of a man that couldn't be killed hanging out with her grandfather and being used as a pawn by her uncle to piss people off with. Thor grins. He would be fun, and it would be fun letting loose on a few of those fools out in that village, he said. Loki shook his head. "It isn't worth it. He drove me nuts last time. He was fun to let him loose on you and the others. But I don't think I could handle him now," he said with a tried sigh. "Who are you two talking about?" questioned Naruto as he wanted to know. Thor looks over at his grandson and smiles. "We are talking about my old friend Wade Wilson. Or as some of the programs you learned from his other name was Deadpool," he said with a large grin. Naruto's eyes widen. "No, what I saw of the video files on him. It would be doomed to all those here," he said with tears in the corner of his eyes. "See, even Naruto agrees, for he knows it would be dangerous for Deadpool to be here," said Loki as he smirks at his brother. Naruto just nods his head at this. "Fine," said Thor as he is pouting about this. "Ah, grandpa, all you need to do is find yourself a girlfriend," said Naruto as he walks over to his grandpa and pats him on his shoulder. Thor just smiles. "Maybe," he said as he just looks away from everyone. "Well, I do have a few single friends," said Sume as grins at him. Thor pales as he knows what she is up to. "No, you don't have to fix me up," he said holding his hands up. "It would be good for you," said Loki grinning as he knows it's been hard for his brother since his wife's death. "No, I will do it on my own when I am ready," said Thor. "Anyways, brother, it would be good for you to get out and date as well," he told Loki with his own smirk. Loki looked away from the group. "I am fine," he said with a slight blush on his cheeks from his brother turning the tables on him. Sume perked up a little at hearing this. She would have to find out what type of woman he likes from Naruto. Naruto noticed this and smirked. He'll be playing matchmaker here soon with these two. For he did notice how his uncle talked about Sume and knew that those two would be good for each other. "So are we going to be training, or are you two going to spend all day flirting?" huffed Kiba as he looked at his mother and Loki. As the two looked at him and back at each other. "Pup," growled out Sume as she smashed her fist into Kiba's skull as everyone just laughed as the boy fell to the ground, hitting it hard. By doing this she knocked out her bonehead son, and thus training with Kiba was a no-go, for it would be a while before the boy would wake up. For when his mother knocked him out like this, it would be a good 2 hours before he bounced back from this. Naruto let out a sigh. "It might be for the best. I do need to get settled in, and a shower sounds good right now," he said as he looked at Sume. She nods her head. "Yes, let me show you to your room and dinner will be ready when you get out," she told him. She looks at the two. "You two will be coming for dinner tonight. I hope you're both meat and potato men," she said as she put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and stepped over her son and lead the boy to the main house and to his new bedroom. Here you do, pup. The bathroom is just 3 doors down with the white door, she told him as he nodded his head to this. Thank you, Sume mama, said Naruto as he went into his room and closes his door. Slowly he let out a breath and dropped his magic around him, and now he was a girl. She took off her duster and removed her hoodie and was in a tank top with her chest bound with wraps and her pants now hung on her hips loosely. Man, I need a long soak in the bath, said Naruto to herself as she was tried from everything that has happened today. Hell, everything that has been happening for the past 5 years of her life. Hurry up and get your wraps off before someone comes and place your spell on you once more, said Sneo as she didn't like how there wasn't a lock on their bedroom door, and anyone could walk in for they believed Naruto to be a boy. It's fine. Kiba is knocked out and I don't think anyone else will be walking in on me, said Naruto. Just as she pulled off her tank top and removing her bindings, her bedroom door slid open and in walks Kiba grinning like a fool. Man, Naruto, my mom hit is getting harder every time she hits him. He didn't finish what he was saying as his eyes had grown wide as he saw breast on his brother, and he looked more like a girl and not a guy. A scream escaped Naruto's lips as her eyes widened and she fell to the ground covering her chest. Get out, Kiba, she screamed at him. In confusion, Tsunade come running to Naruto's room as Thor and Loki come rushing in, as well as they come rushing to the boys' room. But the sight that met them all is a female Naruto pulling her tank top back on her. Naruto, are you? Sume trailed off as she saw the girl in the place that was once who she believed to be a boy. Doesn't anyone knock? Yelled Naruto as she was freaking out now. As she pushed everyone out of the room. Let me get dressed and I will explain everything, she said as she slid her door shut as Hana was now standing there looking at everyone owlishly. Mom, what just happened? Questioned Hana as Kiba also looked at his mom with confusion as she had the same look on her face as her 2 children as Thor and Loki just sighed and looked annoyed. I told her it wouldn't last long if she had to live with someone, said Loki as he had an idea of Sume making the girl moving in with them. Everyone looks at the 2 men. You knew? Exclaimed Sume as shock was written across her face. Yes, but we will allow Naruto to explain why, said Thor as his eyes hardened. They just nodded their heads as Naruto opened her door, now dressed in her black hoodie and shorts on under it. Come on, let's go sit down and I will explain why, she told them as she walked past them and then stopped and looked back at them. I don't know how to get to the living room from here, she said looking sheepishly at them. They all sweat dropped at the blonde hair girl that stood before them all. Kiba stood back up and began walking. It's this way, said Kiba as everyone followed him to the living room. They had arrived at the living room. They all took the seats on the couches that surround an armchair that Sume normally sat in. But they left it for Naruto to sit in as she was center stage and had a lot to explain to them all. Naruto let out a sigh as she looked at everyone looking at her. Well, to start, yes, I was born a girl and the old man placed a seal on me when it was proving too dangerous for me to run around in the village as a girl. For I was starting to look more girly and those fools out there would have hurt a little girl they believed to be the Kyuubi reborn, she said letting out a sigh. I never meant to lie to you. It is just I'm scared. I still don't know how people will react at me being a girl. So I felt safer coming back here as a guy. Yes, I did freak out my grandfather and uncle with them find me as a girl after them spiriting me away as a boy and the old man never giving them a heads up, she said. Naruto, this doesn't change anything between us. You're still my bro, sister. I will do everything in my power to protect you. If anyone tries anything, I will kick their asses from here to IWA, said Kiba as he stood up and pulled his newfound sister into his arms, hugging her. Naruto began crying as she hugged him back. Thanks, Kiba. I know I could trust you, she whispered into his ear. Man, it just sucks as I thought I was going to have another guy in this house with me, said Kiba laughing as he was just joking around as Naruto pouted at him. So is your name still Naruto? Asked Hana as she was trying to wrap her mind around having a new little sister. Yeah, as far as I know it is. The old man never said anything about my parents naming me anything else, said Naruto as she looked at Hana and Sume, who was sitting on the arm of the couch next to her daughter. Leave it to Kushina and Minato, said Sume as she smirks. Giving you a name that could be for a boy or girl. But Naru-chan, I wish you would had told us. But I understand. For I have seen what happened to other who hold tail beast in them in other villages, and it is deadly for the woman that holds one," she said, looking away as she heard the horror stories. Yeah, also Kurama finds this funny as he knew Kiba would be the one to figure it out, said Naruto as the Biju in her was howling in laughter inside of her mind, as she is pouting once more at the Biju making fun of her. "Well, I don't mind Naruto still hiding as a boy until we are genin," said Kiba as all eyes are on the feral-looking boy now. "Why?" asked Naruto. "For I don't want to be beating the boys off of my little sister," said Kiba as he was now cracking his knuckles. "As well as a genin you will be better protected by the Shinobi Council, and the civilians try anything against you they will be meeting with Ibiki and that crazy chick Hana hangs out with," he said. Everyone was shocking the boy was thinking for once. "Wow Kiba, you used that brain of yours. I don't see any smoke coming from it," said Hana as she was examining his head for any smoke or flames. "Hey!" yelled Kiba as she swatted her hands away from his head as he glares at her. Naruto giggles at them. "Don't worry, I will keep this act up for a while. But I will have to tell my genin team once I'm on it," she said as she was thinking. Kiba nodded his head. "I just hope we are teamed together," he said as he looked serious for once in his life. His mother and sister saw this and saw that Kiba was being protective of Naruto and both smiled. He will take good care of her while they are out of the compound. "Well pup, while you are here in the compound, I want you as a girl. For everyone knows and will come to your aid if by chance your henge fails," said Sume. "I will hold a clan meeting tonight to let everyone know and tell them not to tell anyone. Also Naruto, if anyone comes into the compound that isn't part of the clan, I want you to change back to your male form," she ordered the girl before her. Naruto nodded her head to this. "Will do Sume mama," she said. "I will be staying close by to make sure her magic doesn't fail if something does happen," said Loki as he watches his niece, as he worries about her. Naruto just pouts but nods her head in understanding. Since the night that the whole Inuzuka clan had found out that Naruto is a girl, they had become very protective of the girl as she was part of their pack and clan. As well, Sume let it slip she is the daughter of Minato and Kushina to her clansmen, and that just added to their already overprotectiveness of the girl. "Kiba, come on, we are going to be late," yelled Naruto as he walked out the clan gates. "Yeah, I'm coming. Don't get your panties in a twist," yelled Kiba as they both are running late for it was the morning of their team placement. Naruto glared at the feral boy for the comment as one of the twins on gate duty smacked him across the head. "Stupid, watch what you say," he growled at the clan head's only son, as his brother with the bandana on his head just narrowed his eyes at the boy, promising him pain and that he was going to be ratting out the boy. "It's okay guys, I hear you two tell each other that at times," said Naruto with a smirk on her face as the twins pale at her. With that said, both he and Kiba took off running as the team that Sume assigned to watch over Naruto followed after them, snickering at the Inuzuka twins. "So what team do you think we'll be on?" asked Kiba as he looks over at his little brother. Naruto looks over at Kiba, looking down a little at him. "I'm not sure, but Sume mama said she had a meeting with Gigi late last night and was going to make sure we got a team we can work with," he told him. Kiba just nodded his head to him as they jumped up onto the rooftops, as there was too many civilians wandering around the village this morning, and it put Naruto a little on edge, for a lot of them were wandering around the path that the two took to the academy every morning. "Come, let's get to the academy quickly, for it looks like we might have trouble down there," said Kiba, looking down as he was growing annoyed at this point with these stupid villagers. "Yeah," was all that Naruto said as they ran quicker, pushing chakra into their legs as they jumped from roof to roof as they ran across them, just 3 buildings from the clearing just before the academy. "Hey Kiba, do you think you can jump over the clearing into the courtyard of the academy?" he asked as he looked down a few more times, and it did look like trouble down there. Kiba looked down. "No man, I can't, but if you were able to, just do it," he told him as Naruto just nodded his head as he took off running much quicker as he left a slight flash behind him. Kiba shook his head. "Mom is going to have a few heads tonight," he said to himself as he saw the detail that was to protect Naruto pass him as we as several Anbu. Naruto closed his eyes and took in a deep break. As he pulled Mjolnir out of the seal on his left wrist, quickly swing the hammer around in a circle with the leather strap in his right hand. As he jumped, he flew over the crowd of villagers as they look up at him with shock and fear on their faces as the demon brat flew over them. He landed on the front steps of the academy as he runs into the building before anything can happen he would be safer inside the building for now. Kiba came in running several minutes later panting and seeing his little brother leaning against the wall waiting for him before they move on to the classroom. Auntie Suki is dealing with those fools with several Anbu as well a large man with a huge sword. He told Naruto, I guess they pissed off Uncle Heimdall. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that massive sword of his and the village can't do shit to him for he is above their laws. Said Naruto as he let out a sigh. Kiba just nodded his head as they opened the door to the classroom and saw the others that had passed along with them. Kiba hooked his arm around Naruto's arm and dragged him along up the steps to their normal seats. Just relax man, he told Naruto as the two kids jumped through the open window of the classroom. I'm fine, I'm just worried who I will get as my teammates, said Naruto as he looked at the very few fangirls that had made it to Genin. Yeah I hear you, said Kiba as Loki appeared right next to Naruto's desk. I wouldn't worry about it, said Loki as he smirks at the two teens before him. You know something? Asked Naruto as he looks over at his uncle. I know something, but I don't know too much. But I will leave it for when your sensei tells you, said Loki with a devilish smirk on his face. I should let Grandpa dig up Deadpool, grumbled Naruto as he crosses his arms over his chest pouting. Kiba snickers at his brother acting like a little kid. Man I saw those videos you showed me. I would set that fool against those bastards, but it might bite us on the ass, he said as he yawns. I know, pouted out Naruto as he looks out the window to the front gates as people begin to leave as Thor appears with his lighting scaring them all away from his grandchild. It appears my brother has shown up, said Loki as he is looking out the window as well as he saw Thor appear and scare everyone away. Yeah he is going to be giving Gigi and the council hell, said Naruto as he sighs once more. After just chatting and watching Heimdall and Thor standing outside glaring at people and speaking with the third Hokage as he appeared after a while from one of the civilians trying to get the god arrested for threatening to cook him with his lightning. Iruka came walking into the classroom looking proudly at all his students. Good morning class, he said as everyone looked over at him from the classroom window. I have the new list of all the teams each of you will be on, said Iruka as he just returned from the Hokage tower getting the list finalized before the Hokage was called away to deal with enraged man at the academy gates. Everyone grew quiet and all focused on the man before him. I do hope that woman got you on a team with her son, said Kurama as he worried for his kid. Yeah I know what you mean. It would be easier if Kiba is on my team and he would protect me from my other teammate and sensei if they do try something on me, said Naruto as he was a little worried about this now. It had been several months being back and the villagers slowly began giving him hell. But Enbu always stopped anyone from trying anything with him though and Sume has put the fear of Kami in several of the civilian councilmen for calling her new son a beast or demon in front of her. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha and finally Kiba Inuzuka, said Iruka as both boys fist bumped as Sasuke just scuffed but was grateful not to have one of his fangirls on his team. Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and finally Sakura Haruno, said Iruka as Sakura is crying her eyes out for not being on a team with the love of her life and being stuck with the bug boy. Team 9 is still in rotation and now for Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi and Ino Yamanaka, said Iruka as he looked at all the young genin before him with a proud smile on his face. You all have done well and I'm proud of each and every one of you for making this far. For now we are commands on the battlefield and in mission in the near future, said Iruka as he bowed to his students and left them to await their sensei to come and pick them all up. Naruto and Kiba sat next to each other. It appears they made two tracking teams. But it appears our team will also be a frontline team as well. For I am skilled in weapons and ninjutsus. Teme down there is a ninjutsu and taijutsu specialist and yourself are a taijutsu and tracking and will more training will me you will be well rounded, said Naruto as Kiba nodded his head to this as he was slowly learning kenjutsu from Loki as well. Loki's two grandsons had come and been training all of the ninkin of the Inuzuka clan to make them stronger and be able to work better with their human partners. Who do you think whose sensei will be? Asked Kiba as Loki watched the children as he stood next to the window keeping an eye on his brother before he went to war with the village. No clue man, for I don't know why Iruka sensei didn't tell us. For he said in the past the sensei will inform the genin of who their future senseis will be. Said Kiba as all stop talking in the classroom to look at the opening sliding door as several jonins come walking in and one silver hair man being dragged in by Thor as said man is just reading a little orange book that should be read out in public. Thor throw the man up to where Loki stood. Loki looks down at his brother with a raised eyebrow. This is Naruto's sensei. Make sure he isn't a troublemaker for I have a meeting to deal with. Said Thor as he vanished in a flash of lightning. As Kakashi had his hidden eye uncovered as he wanted to see what the man did, was it a jutsu or bloodline. Loki looked down at the fool. You are not able to copy that. For it is part of his godly power he was born with. He told Kakashi looking down at him. Kakashi covered his eye making sure none of the genin saw the eye he had. He stood up. Team 7 meet me up on the roof. He said as he looked at his 3 male students that he found very odd for the only male team he knew of was the Ino Shikacho team. For all teams always had one female teammate. Naruto stood up and grinned at Kiba and placed his hand on Kiba's shoulder and they vanished in a flash of lightning and appeared before Kakashi with lightning dancing around the 2 boys. Kakashi's eye widened with shock as a genin used a skill that is mostly jonin or high chunin. Just then Sasuke came running up the stairs and the door burst open as he ran up to the 3 standing up there as the 2 fox ninkin jump up over the railing on the roof that Kakashi was leaning against. Kakashi looked at his 3 male students. Well, how about we all introduce ourselves? He asked them. Loki appeared behind him. Why don't you go first? For I believe a sensei should always introduce themselves to their students before they do. He told the silver hair man before him. Kakashi just nodded his head to the man that stood right behind him. I am Kakashi Hitaki. I like many things and some I am unable to tell you for you're too young to hear. I dislike many things. My dreams for the future? Well, I have no clue. He told the 3 teens that sat before him. We just learned his name and that he is a massive pervert. They all thought as one. He was once a student of your late father. Added Kurama with an evil smirk on his face. Well, I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. The son of your late sensei. The grandson of Thor the god of thunder and king of Asgard and grandnephew of Loki the god of mischief and chaos and advisor of the king. I like my family and friends. I dislike closed-minded fools that don't know the difference between a sealing scroll and the kunai sealed in it. My dreams for the future is to become the Hokage. Said Naruto with a huge grin on his face. Kakashi just paled at this. This boy before him knew who his late sensei was. But how? Who told him? Was also the thoughts going through his mind. He pointed to Kiba. How about you puppy boy? He said. I am Kiba Inuzuka and this is my partner Akamaru. We like our family and friends. We dislike people who are morons and people who hurt animals. My dream for the future. I'm not sure yet, said Kiba as he'd been thinking about his future dreams for a while. Kakashi looks over at Sasuke. Sasuke just scoffs. I am Sasuke Uchiha. I like nothing and dislike everything. I don't have a dream I wish to share with you. He told them as he looked away. We are Naruto's partners Sneo and Scatty. Said Sneo as she looks over at her sister. Kakashi looked at the 2 foxes that talked to him. You can speak? He questioned. Yes, we are able to speak. We are not mindless beast. Growled out Scatty as she glares at him. Kakashi just nodded his head to this and looked at his team. We will have a survival exam tomorrow morning. Meet at training ground 7 at 7 a.m. and if I were you I wouldn't eat anything. He said with a smirk under his mask and vanished. Naruto narrowed his eyes at where the man once stood. I wouldn't listen to him. I am going to eat something before showing up. For we need all our energy for whatever the exam might throw at us. He said. Whatever, said Sasuke as he walks away. Loki narrows his eyes at the boy. He is full of darkness and this isn't good. He said as he looked at the 2 that stood before him. Both boys looked at him and back at where Sasuke vanished. He needs to get some better help for what happened to him. Said Naruto as Kiba just nodded his head. Loki looked at the 2 boys. Come on, let's save those fools from my brother. He said as the 2 boys look at him as their partners just snicker. I don't see what we are able to do. We are just freshly minted genin. Said Naruto with a playful grin on his face. Loki smirked. I know, but it would be good for you both to see what the future will hold for you. For Kiba you might have to go to these meetings while your sister is out of the village when she become clan head. He told the feral boy. Council chambers. What the hell do you fools think you are doing? Having your mindless fools trying to stop my grandson from finding out what team was going to be on," roared Thor as lightning danced around his crystal blue eye and eye patch. "Thor-sama, could you please calm down?" asked the third Hokage as he was worried that he was going to be killing a few people in here. Thor narrowed his lone eye at the Hokage. "I will only calm down when these fools learn their goddamn place. They are not the Hokage of this village and have no damn power," he hissed out. "I don't give a damn about what you want, you fool," screamed a man from the civilian side. Loki appeared before Thor, stopping from using Stormbreaker. "That will be enough, brother. I will handle things from here," he said as he looked at the fool that had paled and pissed his pants. Thor looked at Loki as his lightning was finally settling down. "Fine," he said as he walked back to the Namikaze council chair and settles himself down and keeps his lone glare at the other half. Sume growled out, "You will leave my son alone. For you fools, my clan will stop shopping at your shops and only visit shinobi-owned businesses." She growled out at him. Loki looked over at the feral woman with a smirk on his face. "I will be opening shops and be bringing in supplies from Asgard," he said as the civilian council blew up at this. "How can you do this? You don't have that kind of power," yelled a blonde hair woman. Loki smirked. "I am able to do this. For the Lord Hokage has already approved my shops about 2 months ago, and some of you fools have been shopping at one of them already," he said with a grin as his emerald green eyes flashed bright. "It is true. Loki-sama has set up several shops in the village as all you fools have been shopping," said the third Hokage. They all quieted down at this little bit of information. They just looked at their leader owlishly. "What do you mean, Hokage-sama?" asked Homura Mitokado as Kaharu Utatane nodded her head to this. Sarutobi looked over at the elders. "Oh, Loki-sama and Thor-sama have been setting up businesses since the day the spirited Naruto away for training. As well, they have busted our trades and businesses." He just dumbly nodded his head as Loki grinned. "Yes, and the people running my shops are from our home. So I would have fools running my shops," he told them with a grin as he saw them pale even more, thinking they could flip the people running their shops. Naruto just sighed at this time. "I know I have the Kyuubi no Yoko sealed into my gut, and I am the son of the late 4th Hokage and his wife Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze," he said as he looks at the stunned civilian council. "You're lying," screamed a man. "No, I'm not. Just look at the photo of my father there. He looks like me and my grandfather," said Naruto as he pointed at the photo at Minato. They looked at the photo and back at Naruto, and now Thor, who stood next to the boy, and Loki with a wicked grin on his face turned into Minato and stood in the middle of the two, and gasps could be heard from all those in the council chamber. The third Hokage grinned. "Now you fools look at them all. Minato is the son of Thor and the father of Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Oden-san," he said with a laugh. Kiba just snickered as he sat down next to his mother. Sume grinned at this and laughed. "I am the boy's godmother, and I was there when they got married, and I was one of the first people to find out that Kushina was pregnant with the boy, and Minato was so happy at the news. He was going to tell everyone once Naruto was about 2 months old. But when the fox attacked, things didn't go as planned," said Sume with a frown and a few tears in a corner of his eyes. They just looked at the feral woman and at the three that stood before them. It appeared they had broken the civilian council. "Well, I'm going home. Come on, Grandpa. I think we broke them," said Naruto as he looks over at his Gigi. "The meeting is over," said the third Hokage as he stood up, and they all left. It was early morning, and Hattie and Skull slept in their wolves from wrapped around Naruto as she slept soundly in her bedroom as her 2 foxes slept right next to her. This was the sight that Kiba and Sume walked in on. Sume couldn't help herself and pulled a camera out of her pouch and took a picture of them sleeping so sweetly and soundly. Naruto barred her face into Skull's fur as the flash went off. "I wouldn't do that if I was you," said Skull as he lifted his head off the bed and looked over at her soon-to-be future grandmother. "Why not? You all look so cute," said Sume with a feral smirk on her face. "Because cute and sweet little Naruto has a habit of stealing and breaking cameras when she is taken a photo of while she is a girl and no one asks her first," said Hattie as he looked up as well. "Shush, need more sleep," whined Naruto as she pulled the blankets over her head. "It's time to get up, pup," said Sume as she pulls the blankets off the blonde. "Just like your mother when it comes to the morning," she said with a laugh as she thought about her best friend. "No, whined Naruto as she slowly opened her eyes looking over at the demon that will not allow her to sleep a little longer. I don't want to get up, she said. Too bad we got to head out for the team bullshit with that one-eye weirdo, said Kiba as he was growing tired of his sister being a pain in his ass. Naruto puffs out her cheeks glaring at her brother and mother that stood before her. Fine, she huffs out as she moves out of the small ring of fur she was sleeping in. Sume grins. Just be happy I didn't give you an ice bath, she told the girl as Naruto paled as she saw the bucket sitting at the doorway with ice and cold water in it. With that she gathered up her clothing and made her way to get ready quickly. She didn't want the wrath of Sume on her, for it always ended bad for her. Loki appeared right next to Sume, looking over at his grandsons as they laid in Naruto's bed just yawning and acting like they owned the room. Come on you two lazy asses. You will be going with Naruto to tell me how her team test goes with that sensei they had been given, he said as he looked away, for he was still having some issues with trusting Kakashi with his niece's life. If he could have it his way he would take one of the warriors 3 to be her sensei. Maybe this will be something he will speak to the Hokage about. Food for thought. Yeah, we'll go and put that fear of you into the fool, said Hattie with a shit-eating grin on his muzzle. Good, said Loki as he turned away and gave Sume a kiss on the cheek. Good morning dear, he said as he looked at Kiba who appeared to have turned green and ran away making a barfing sound and screaming at Naruto to hurry up, for he needs to puke. Sume smirked at her lover. Good morning love, it appears we have scared Kiba for life, she said with a giggle as she watched her son bang on the bathroom door and Naruto opening it and shoving a bar of soap into his open mouth. Both adults couldn't help but laugh at the boy's misfortune. Go use the other bathroom ass, yelled Naruto as she slammed the door on his face, thus making Kiba falling onto his ass with his nose glowing red where the door hit it and the bar of soap hanging halfway out of his mouth looking at the door dumbfounded. Just a couple of seconds later Naruto steps out looking like a boy and she smirks down at him. You might want to spit that out, he told his brother as Kiba just looked up at the blonde nodding his head and spitting out the bar of soap. You should have covered yourself better with that towel, said Kiba as he turned green once more and pushed Naruto out of the way and rushed into the bathroom to throw up. Naruto for his part blinked owlishly as what Kiba had told him finally settled in. Kiba, I'm going to murder you, she screamed, making Hana crawl out of her room glaring at her 2 younger siblings. Shut the hell up, growled out Hana as she was glaring kunai at Naruto and Kiba who had finally opened the door and was standing there blushing and glaring at their older sister. Well, you shouldn't have stayed out all night with Anko and the boys, growled out Kiba in return as he saw his sister crawling into the house just 2 hours ago. As Hattie and Skull carried her inside into her bedroom, Hana for her part just blushed up a storm. Shut up, she told him and pushed past the two to take a long shower before she had to go to the clinic. That is enough you two. I believe you have woken up everyone in the compound. Now let's get something to eat before you leave, said Sume as she looked at her 2 troublemakers. They both nodded their heads and followed after her like 2 well-behaved pups. Loki just smirked as he saw how she could command those around her. She would make a wonderful mother to their future children. Loki's eyes widened as he had never thought about having more children. He had thought those days had been behind him. But there was something special about Sume that made him want to have more little monsters to raise and hope they do better than his other children, even though he couldn't blame them for all the things they have done in the past. Training Ground 7. Kakashi had arrived at a strange sight. Naruto napping with 2 massive wolves wrapped around the boy as the 2 foxes slept across the boy's lap. Kiba asleep next to said blonde and Sasuke up in a tree glaring down at the 2 below him. Yo, said Kakashi as he walked up to them. Sasuke turned his sight onto the silver hair man. About damn time you have arrived, he hisses out at his new sensei. Well Sasuke, I got lost on the road of life, said Kakashi as he saw the raven hair boy's right eye twitching at this lame ass joke. Just tell the dope and the freak to call off those 2 wolves, growled out Sasuke as he glares at the man. Kakashi tilts his head to the left looking up at Sasuke and down at the 2 sleeping teens below. Why, they look to be sleeping, he told Sasuke. Shut up, I'm sleeping, growled out Naruto as he opened his left eye to see his sensei. You're late, he growls out and goes back to sleep. Kakashi just sweat drops at the blonde as Kiba opens his right eye to see who was making all the noise. Oh, it's just you. About damn time. He growls out as he yawns and kicks Naruto to wake up. Naruto opens his eyes and glares at his brother and then over at the silver hair man. I would rather train with the Warriors 3. For they respect training and don't waste others' time. He tells the silver hair man that stands before them. Kakashi's sweat drops once more. I thought this would help with them to bond a little. But it appears that they want to kill Sasuke already. He thought to himself. Naruto stands up as the two wolves wake up along with the two foxes. Naruto looks up at Sasuke and smirks. If you play nice Teme, my two cousins will not try to eat you again. He said in a sing-song voice. Naruto, what do you mean your cousins? Questioned Kakashi as he looks around only to see the two massive black wolves. He means us, said the pure black wolf in a growl. But we didn't plan to eat him. Just take out a nice chunk of meat off of him. Nothing that would end his shinobi career, said the other black wolf that looks to have a white skull. Kakashi just looked at the two massive wolves with his single eye just open wide. What the hell, are they summons? He questioned looking at Naruto. Naruto just rolls his eyes at the silver hair man. No, they are the grandsons of my uncle Loki. He tells the man as green and black smoke surround the two and a mysterious wind blows out of the east blowing away the smoke revealing two young men around 17 or 18 years old. We are Hattie and Skull. We are both Naruto's cousins and at times we are his ninkin when he needs a little extra wolf power on whatever the hell our uncle or grandfather sent him off to do. Said Hattie and Skull as one. They felt like playing the creepy twin card on the man that stood before them with his little orange book falling to the ground long forgotten for the sight that was now before him. Enough you two. I think you broke him. Just like how we broke the civilian council last night. Said Naruto with an evil smirk on his lips. Oh yeah, could you two turn back to your wolf forms? For I will be needing your help. Well more Kiba and I also know biting the Teme. I know he does deserve it. But Uncle Loki doesn't need to hear the civilian council crying about how two demon wolves tried eating their precious Uchiha. He told them. Fine, said Hattie and Skull as one as they both pout at their blonde hair cousin. But if he tries anything against us, said Skull leaving the thread open so that Sasuke would get the point. HN, said Sasuke as he jumped down from the tree and stood next to the two losers, he has to call his teammates. Kakashi eyes smiles at them all. I don't know if this is fair that you are having your cousins taking part in this little exam. He told Naruto as he looks at the twins. Oh little man, it is fair, said Hattie as he is grinning at the man stands before him. If you like, we could call for our grandfather or our uncle, said Skull with a grin on his muzzle. HN, why don't you allow the dope to have the extra help? It just proves he is too weak, said Sasuke with a smug smirk on his face. The twin wolves began laughing their furry asses off. Sure he is weak. He killed several frost giants and several stone giants who are a pain in the ass to kill. Giggles Skull as he looks at the pampered Uchiha that stood before him. Sasuke's right eye twitches as he glares at the blonde and then to the two wolves with him along with the foxes as they just fall back giggling as well. Proving that the Uchiha is a fool. Anyways, this is just an exam to see how we work well as a team. Other than that, it is pretty much pointless. If you don't want us as your students, I'm sure I can get Sume Mama to take Kiba and I as apprentices. Said Naruto as his blue eyes held a soft glow to them as he just smirks at the silver hair man. How did you know the true meaning of this exam? Questioned Kakashi as he looks at the blonde and the feral boy just smirking as well. It's easy. All genin teams are 4-man cells that are made up of 2 male genin and 1 female genin and a jonin. But there are teams that have 3 male genins like ourselves, said Naruto as he smirks looking at his jonin sensei who looks a little dumbfounded from what he was just told. We could do this, but we will take you down quickly, said Sneo with a smirk on her muzzle. How well have your 3 worked together in the academy? Questioned Kakashi as he hadn't looked at their files. But now he is wondering if he should have taken the time to look at it. Sasuke and I worked all right together. Naruto just arrived not that long ago, and he and I have trained well together at home, said Kiba as he looks at his sensei. I worked fine with Teme at the academy the few days I went there, said Naruto looking over at Sasuke as he smirked. The dope and loser are fine. They work a little harder than the annoying fangirls, said Sasuke as he looks at Kakashi. Anyways, I have heard you're not allowed to fail this team. said a voice from behind Kakashi as Naruto and Kiba both grins looking at the one who spoke from behind the man. Kakashi slowly turned around to see Thor and Loki standing there with their arms crossed over their chest. "How do you know this?" he questioned with a little fear in his voice. Loki smirked. "We found out that the civilian council will make your life a living hell if you fail their little pet Uchiha," he said as he looks over at Sasuke as the boy frowns at hearing this. That he was being seen as a pet of some losers, that he believed he was the master of them and not the other way around. "Yes, I was very surprised to hear this. I had a nice little chat with the Hokage about all of this. If my grandson and future nephew fail here today, I will be calling for the Warriors 3 to take over teaching and training them," said Thor with a smirk on his face. Kakashi just hung his head with shame. "They pass," he said as he was screwed no matter what. Sasuke looks over at Naruto and Kiba. "Who are those Warriors 3 you keep talking about?" He questions them as demanding would not get him nowhere with the blonde as he has found out in the past. Naruto looks over at the Uchiha. "They are my grandfather's friends and teammates. They are the ones he has at his side when he goes into battle. Well, besides the Avengers, but they have long passed away and the Warriors 3 are still alive," he said as he always enjoyed hearing the stories about his grandfather's old friends and teammates. Sasuke nods his head. "Are they powerful?" he asks. "Well, yeah, but they cannot use jutsu. They use magic and other worldly powers," said Naruto, knowing where the Uchiha was trying to go with this. Sasuke just nods his head and looks away. "So what now?" asks Kiba as he looks at their lazy teacher. Kakashi lets out another sigh. "Well, now I have to report to the Hokage tower and tell him you have passed. So you 3 are free to go," he told the 3 teenagers. Naruto, Kiba, called out Loki. The 2 boys look over at the raven hair god. "Yeah, uncle?" questions Naruto as he tilts his head to the left. "It is time to come and train," said Loki as he looks at Kiba as well. "As you both have Ninkins, you 2 need to keep your training up with them," he told them as Sasuke looked a little annoyed at this. "Alright," said Kiba as he looks over at Naruto. "Come on, man," he told his brother. "Yeah, I'm coming," said Naruto as he turns to Sasuke. "Would you like to join us?" he questioned the raven hair boy. Sasuke looks at the blonde as if he had grown 2 heads. "No," said Sasuke as he turns and leaves. "Just leave him," said Kiba as he frowns at how the Uchiha does not want to do any bonding with his 2 teammates. The boy has a lot on his mind as he just found out he is the pet of the civilian council when he believed them to be his, said Skull with a smirk on his face. Naruto just nods his head and walks off with his family as Kakashi vanishes in a swirl of leaves. "Hokage Tower. Team 6 fail," said a random Jonin. "Very well. Kakashi?" questioned the 3rd Hokage as he saw Kakashi appear in his office early for once. "Team 7 passed, but they only passed for they knew that I was being blackmailed on passing them from the civilian council and elders," said Kakashi as all eyes are now on the silver hair man. Sarutobi just nods his head. "I figure those fools had something going on behind my back. They had been a little too quiet as of late. But I am glad you have finally taken on a team, Kakashi," he told his Jonin with a grandfatherly smile on his face. "Father, what are you going to do about this?" questioned a man with dark brown hair and a cigarette in his mouth. The Hokage looks over at the man that had called him father. "For now, Asuma, I am just going to allow those fools to believe I do not know what they are planning and allow them to dig their own graves," he told his now-named son. Asuma just smirks and nods his head. About damn time the old man has a backbone once more, he thought to himself as he had been seeing his father weak for a while, as those on the elders board and civilian council had been running wild without someone keeping them in bound. "Now Kurenai?" questioned Sarutobi. "Team 8 has passed with flying colors," said Kurenai with a smile on her face. He nods his head and looks over at his son. "Team 10 passes," said Asuma without having to be asked by his father. "Very well. We only have 3 teams this time around. That is not a good thing. We are going to be changing the lesson plan at the academy. For we have been having lesser and lesser graduating genin teams in the past 4 years and it doesn't look very well on your village," said the 3rd as the others just nod their heads in agreement to the wise words of their leader. Time skip 3 months. Naruto stands on the center of the lake fighting her shadow clones as it was midnight and she was having trouble sleeping. Unknown to her, there was a lazy Nara on the shoreline just waking up from his nap that was going to be facing the wrath of his mother once he got home. Slowly Shikamaru sat up, yawn, as he could hear yelling and something going pop and some splashing going on around him. What is going on? He questions himself as he slowly opens his eyes, as he could see a blonde-hair goddess dancing as she fights on the lake against herself. His eyes widen as he sees the orange shorts and black sports bra she has on. His sandals lay forgotten on the shore along with her shirt and jacket. Naruto jumps over a clone sweep kick as another jump out of the water, trying to hit her in the center of her back. Thinking quick, she spins in midair and throws a kunai at the clone that came out of the water as she makes a single hand sign for a fire jutsu. Fire Lotus. She cries out as flames that look like lotus flowers shot out of her mouth and towards the clone that was doing the leg sweep. The attack make contact as another clone appears out of the water. Banshee's cry. A sonic wind pulse flies up and contacts the girl, sending her flying to the shoreline where two clones are waiting to catch her. The two clones pop as she slams into them. Ouch, that hurts. I'm not going to be able to hear for a while. She whines to herself as Shikamaru stands up. Troublesome, said Shikamaru. This draws Naruto over to the boy. Her eyes grow huge as she looks like a deer in the headlights. Shit, is all she says. How long are you going to be hiding from the others? Questioned Shikamaru as he studies the blonde. Naruto just pales even more. Not sure how to answer that question, or even if she should answer that question whatsoever. I know you were born the night it attacked, and I also know you are not that fox. Just the prison, said Shikamaru as he let out a tried sigh. Yeah, this is going to be a long-ass night. For the look on Naruto's face was one of pure fear and horror. Kid, calm down. You can either answer the boy or run. Came Kurama's deep voice from within her. Not genuinely wanting to deal with this right now. Naruto did the one thing she would never be proud of. But at this time, it is the best for her. She ran away, forgetting her stuff and vanishing in a flash of lightning. Troublesome, sighed Shikamaru as he walked over and gathered the girl's stuff. He would have to return it to the girl in the morning. For now he needs to face his mother's wrath, and the longer it takes him to get home, the worse it will be for him. Kiba woke up early this morning. He awoke with a strange feeling. A sinking feeling in his gut. Why am I up so early? He questioned himself as he pushed his blankets off and looked over at the alarm clock as it was flashing 5:45 a.m. He let out another tried sigh once more. Something tells me this has to do with Naruto. As he ran a hand through his hair as he got out of bed and made his way over to the bathroom to get in a long shower. If he was up, he was going to get a nice long hot shower before all the crazy women of his family woke up and left him the cold water. 45 minutes later, Kiba comes out of the bathroom fully dressed as he walks over to the kitchen. Figuring if he is up early, he can make something for him and Akamaru to eat. Naruto can take care of herself and her foxes. As Kiba walks into the kitchen, there is a knock at the front door. Arching a brow, he wanders over to the door to see one Shikamaru Nara standing there with a bag in his hands. Hey Shikamaru, said Kiba as he opened the front door, stepping out into the brisk morning. The cool stone of the steps stinging his feet. Well, I have something of Naruto's that I figure I return before team training, said Shikamaru as he held up the bag. Kiba looked at the Nara a little confused. What do you have of my brothers? He questions as Akamaru is jumping around Shikamaru's feet as he picked up their sister's scent on the bag. Shikamaru looks at Kiba with a calculating eye. I know Naruto is a girl. He tells the feral boy as Kiba just freezes up and Akamaru begins to grow. What are you talking about? Questioned Kiba as he was trying to play the fool before Shikamaru. Hey, Kiba, what are you doing outside? Came a female voice from the living room. Crap, hissed Kiba as Naruto comes walking up behind him. Her eyes widen as she thought it was the twins coming to talk with Kiba before their guard duty at the gate. Shit, said Naruto as her eyes land on Shikamaru as he just lets out a sigh. Troublesome. Kiba grabs onto Shikamaru's jacket, pulling the boy into the house. Shikamaru falls into the house as he is on the floor looking up at Naruto, who's just in shorts and a sports bra. A small blush creeps across his cheeks. Kiba turns and looks at Naruto with narrow eyes. Why does he have your clothes and why does he know you're a girl? Yells Kiba as now he had awoken the whole house and some of the other house nearby. Naruto pales looking at her brother. Well, you see. I was out training on the lake at training ground 10 as it is the farthest from the other training grounds around midnight last night. I didn't know someone else was there. She told him as she points at Shikamaru, who was now standing up and now had Hana's triplets jumping around him, barking and growling at him as Akamaru sat on one of their heads. Kiba's right eye began to twitch. Mom has told you if you want to train on the lake to do it in the one in the backyard. He growls out at her. Naruto looked away sheepishly. I'm sorry. I just needed to get away and just think about everything. She told Kiba as she rubbed her hand behind her head. I'm not going to tell her secret. I know Naruto isn't well liked for another secret that she holds at bay every day that she is alive, said Shikamaru as he looked at the two siblings bickering with each other. That is good to hear, pup, came Tsune's voice as she was standing in the kitchen with Hana, Thor, and Loki looking over at the Nara heir. It is for the best that someone has found out. Naruto doesn't like hiding who she is, said Thor with a large grin on his face. Before it turned dark. But why do you have my granddaughter's clothing? He asked Shikamaru in a dark but commanding tone. Paling and sweating, Shikamaru spoke up. When I woke up and saw her training on the water, she was just dressed as she is now. Her shirt, jacket and sandals were on the shore near me. Before I could call out to her, she ran away, he told the god of thunder as lighting danced around Thor's eyes. Haha, yeah, I did run away like a scared little kid when I saw him watching me. I did leave everything there, said Naruto with a sheepish laugh. Thank you for returning my things and keeping my two secrets. She told Shikamaru. Don't worry about it, but it would have been nice to know one of my friends in the academy was a girl. For Ino was too much of an annoying crybaby to deal with as a kid, said Shikamaru with a small sigh. Don't feel bad. Kiba walked in on me while I was changing and found out I was a girl, and that is when I returned to the village, said Naruto with a cheesy grin as Kiba just paled and turned green. I am scared for life. No one ever wants to see their sisters half naked. Kiba whined as he looked like he was going to lose his kibble. Well, Shikamaru, would you like to join us for breakfast? Called out Sume as she was walking into the living room over to the others. Loki and Thor began making breakfast as Hana just sat on the kitchen island. If it isn't too much trouble, said Shikamaru. It isn't any trouble, boy. Just come and have a seat. For we have a few things to talk about, said Loki as he looks over at Shikamaru. Shikamaru just nods his head to this. I'm going to die, was his only thought as Naruto vanished back into the house to her room to get ready as Kiba pulled the boy over to the table. Now that you know she is a girl, I do not want you to be hounding her and trying to hit on her. For she is my sister and I will kick your ass. Hell, I do not want the damn Uchiha finding out Naruto is a girl. For that prick will just want her as breeding stock for his damn loser clan. Growled out Kiba as he been fearing the day that Sasuke finds out that Naruto is truly a girl. As it is, Naruto is prettier than all the girls from their graduation class. Don't worry about me, I do not even think she would like a slacker like myself. As for Sasuke, Choji and I will handle him if he tries anything once Naruto comes out as a girl, said Shikamaru. Sume and Hana smirk at hearing this. I wouldn't mind having Yoshino as part of the family, thought Sume with a wicked smirk on her face. Oh, he is so cute, and I think he would be adorable with Naruto, thought Hana with a dreamy smile on her face. Both women look at each other and nod their heads, vanishing from the kitchen. They had their own little mission right now and Naruto was their mission target. With Naruto just stepped out of the shower heading to her room as Sume and Hana come walking up the hallway. Each woman takes an arm and lifts Naruto off of her feet, dragging the girl to her room. What is going on? Questioned a confused and puzzled Naruto as she did not know what those two had planned, but all she knew it would not end well for her. Well, Naru-chan, started Hana as she looked over at her mother. We would like to know your feelings about the Nara boy, said Sume as they let go of Naruto for the girl to get dressed. Naruto falls hard on her ass on the hardwood floor, looking up at her mother and sister with shock written across her face. Well, you see, she began as she began blushing up a storm. I did have a small crush on him in the academy before I was taken to live with my grandfather, she said, looking away from the two women before her. Hana begins to squeal like a schoolgirl as Sume smirks. That's good to hear, said Sume with a large smirk on her face. From the doorway, she is still too young to date. Maybe in the next 100 years, came a male voice from behind the three women as Naruto had ducked into her closet to get dressed. Sume turns to look to see Thor standing there with his eyes closed. What do you mean she isn't allowed to date? She growls at him. Like I said, she is still too young to date, said Thor as he did not want his little princess looking at boys or even growing up just yet. Sume smirks. The more you tell her she can't do something, the more you will drive her to do it, she told Thor as his face paled as he knew this to be true. For they did the same thing to his parents growing up. I just got her back and I'm not ready for her to be dating, whined Thor as tears streamed down his cheeks. Oh grandpa, it's going to be a long time before I even think about dating. Right now, I just want to be a shinobi and then one day Hokage, said Naruto as she was fully dressed, and her hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Alright, said Thor as he wiped away his tears and snot from his face. With Kiba, so we understand each other? Questioned Kiba as he looked at Shikamaru. Troublesome. Yeah, you do not have to worry about myself or anyone trying anything against Naruto. Also you can trust Choji with this secret and maybe Ino if you make sure she understands how much trouble she would be in if she told, said Shikamaru as he let out a sigh. It will happen when Naruto is ready. Hell, I do not even think Sensei even knows her secret. He just believes he is stuck on a team of all boys. Boy, isn't he in for it, said Kiba with a laugh as he thought about Kakashi's face once he found out Naruto was a her and not a he. Just understand this, boy. If anything happens to her and we know you are behind it, your father nor this village will save you from our wrath, said Loki as he placed the plate of hotcakes and bacon and eggs on the table. Thor appears with milk, orange juice, and coffee in hand. Come on you guys, leave poor Shikamaru alone. I do believe he understands the severity of my situation, said Naruto in her male voice as he sat down next to Shikamaru. You know, after seeing you as a girl, it is going to be weird now seeing as a male, said Shikamaru as he took a drink of his milk. I know what you mean. It took me a while to get used to Naruto being a girl, said Kiba as he severed himself some bacon and eggs. Well, you'll get over it. Everyone else did when they found out, said Naruto as he took a drink of his milk and served himself some hotcakes, bacon and eggs. Hey, Uncle Loki, have you seen my travel mug for my coffee? He questioned as he was not sure if he sealed it away in a scroll or lost it. Yeah, Thor had it last night. I'll go get it and have it ready for you when you leave for your team training, said Loki with a wicked grin on his face. Shikamaru shivered as he looked at the blonde sitting next to him. You are already hyper as it is. Why do you need to add more fuel to the fire? He questioned the blonde. Naruto tilted his head to the left. Well, it's fun to piss off Teme when I'm bouncing off the walls and Sensei leaves us alone more and gets us missions quicker if I'm hyped up on coffee, he said with a large grin on his face. Troublesome blonde, said Shikamaru as he quietly ate his meal as the others just chatted and Naruto laughed at everything that she found funny. Who would have ever thought the feeling I had about Naruto being a girl was right? She had always left me feeling weird, and the feeling I only got when she was around me. No one else has ever gotten close to giving me this feeling in my gut that I have to be close to her and have her as part of my world, he thought to himself as he looked away and saw Sume smirking at him as she had been watching the lazy boy study the girl that sat right next to him. Troublesome. Training Ground 7. Sasuke sat against a tree waiting his two teammates and Sensei to show up. He had gotten there a few minutes before 8 a.m., as this was the time Kakashi had told them to meet, for they would be taking missions this morning and doing afternoon training. Just promise me you'll be more careful as well when you want to start dating. Let us meet them first, said Kiba as he was talking to Naruto, who was slightly blushing. This was the welcoming sight for Sasuke as he was wondering why Kiba wanted to meet the girl the blonde would ever maybe date in his life. Losers, he said to himself, but loud enough for Kiba and Naruto to hear him. Morning Teme, I hope you had your coffee this morning, said Naruto with a large grin on his face. Kiba just signs. It's going to be a very long day with you two, as he jumps into a tree to sit back and relax until their sensei showed up. If he were lucky, he would be able to get a nap in before Kakashi even thought about showing up this morning. But it appeared that luck was not on his side. Good morning my cute little genin, came Kakashi's voice from just above Kiba. Kiba glares at him as he jumps back down to stand in between Naruto and Sasuke. Something he has been doing since the team was formed. Like he did not want the Uchiha close to the blonde whatsoever. So what are we doing today, sensei? asked Naruto with a large smile on his face with a coffee travel mug in his right hand. Well, we are now banned from ever hunting down Tora. So Lord Hokage has given us a team mission with Team 10. We are to report to the Hokage for mission briefing, said Kakashi as he smiled at his 3 cute little genin. Sasuke smirks at this. Finally a mission that is to my standards. But why do we have to have those losers of Team 10 join us? He thinks to himself as he turns to leave the training ground. Wait up, Teme, called out Naruto as he ran after the raven-hair boy as Kiba was hot on his heels. Kakashi just let out a sigh. There is something strange going on with those two. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of it during this mission. He thinks to himself as he vanishes and appears right next to his students as they make their way to the Hokage Tower. So we have a mission with Team 7? Questions Ino as hearts appear in her eyes. Yes, they have been banned from taking the Tora mission due to Naruto's cousins almost eating Tora. So Lord Hokage wants us to team up with them for a C-rank mission, said Asuma as he blew out a small cloud of smoke. All 3 members of Team 10 stop what they are doing and look at their sensei. What do you mean Naruto's cousins almost ate Tora? Questioned Choji as he was shocked to hear that. Those 2 wolves that have been in the village for the past few weeks are werewolves and the grandsons of Naruto's uncle Loki. They shapeshift into wolves and at times help out on any of Naruto's missions, said Asuma as he and his team had seen the 2 large wolves walking with the blonde and Kiba. But I thought they were Sum's partners, said Ino as she was so confused now at hearing this. Granted, Kiba's mom's partner is a wolf. He is only 1 and is smaller than the 2 that have been seen with Naruto, said Shikamaru as he looks at his blonde-haired teammate. They just nod their heads and look over at their sensei. Come on, let's head to the Hokage Tower for mission briefing and find out what type of escort mission this will be, said Asuma as they made their way back to the village. Hokage Tower. Older man with gray hair wearing a black sleeveless shirt and black short pants and sandals sat across from the Hokage. Lord Hokage, I request a C-rank protection mission. I have been having issues with thugs and highwaymen, as well as for them to stay and protect those working on my bridge until it is finished, said the older man with an old sake bottle in his hands. I have 2 genin teams that would work well for this mission. How long do you believe it will take to finish your bridge with their protection? Questioned the 3rd Hokage. If they can keep the bandits and thugs and whatnot away, it will take about a month. But if we run into any trouble and they cannot keep them at bay, maybe 2 months, said the man. Sarutobi nodded his head. He did not like the idea of having 2 teams tied to one mission for this long. But he had sent more than 1 team before for missions that have taken years to finish. Very well, I will grant your request. Could you go and wait out in the waiting room? He told the man before him. Thank you, Lord Hokage, said the man with a bow as he followed out an Anbu to the waiting room away from where the genin and their senseis will be entering. The door to the Hokage's office flew open as Naruto came running in with Ino hot on his heels. Jumping up into the rafters, Naruto hid behind the Anbu that sat there watching over their Hokage. Naruto, you will pay for spilling your coffee all over my clothing, growled out Ino as she looked around the room for the blonde but blinked when all she saw was Lord Hokage with a smirk on his face as an open window. Blushing brightly, Ino bowed to the Hokage. Lord Hokage, please forgive me. Naruto dumped his coffee on me when Kiba tripped him, she told her village leader as she stood up, her purple top now brown from the coffee that was slowly drying on it. It is fine, Ino-chan. I am sure Naruto will be happy to wash or replace it, said Sarutobi with his grandfatherly smile on his face. I'll make him do my laundry for a month for this, said Ino holding a fist up in the air. I'm sorry, Ino-chan, it was an accident. Kiba tripped me, called out Naruto's voice from around the room as the others walked into the office. Ino huffed and crossed her arms across her chest. Was it so hard to say sorry? She growled out at the blonde. No, but you were trying to kill me over an accident. So I ran, said Naruto as he appeared on the rafter next to the Anbu that no one had seen. Well, you can buy me my favorite lunch for a week, and we will be even, said Ino as she had cooled off some when he had told her sorry. I can do that, said Naruto grinning as he jumped down, landing next to the blonde of Team 10. Hey old man, what's this co-op mission you have for us? He questioned the Hokage as everyone but for Team 7 looked on with shock with how Naruto spoke to the Hokage. With a chuckle, the thirds just pulls out the scroll for the mission he had just received into his office. It will be an escort protections mission that will take 1 month, no longer than 2, just depending on delays. He told them. Cool, said Naruto as he looked over at Kiba. Here is your mission scroll, said the third Hokage as he handed it over to Kakashi and Asuma to look over. Bring in the client, he called out to the Anbu that stood out in the waiting room with the old drunker bridge builder. In walked a man with gray hair and black sleeveless shirt and black shorts and sandals. He was taking a drink from his old sake bottle when he saw the 6 teens and 2 jonin. You're going to have a group of brats protect me? He questioned, not sure if this was going to end up well for himself. Don't worry, Asuma and myself are both jonin, and if anything comes up, we will handle it, said Kakashi with his creepy little eye smile. The man took a step away from the silver-haired jonin as the smile had creeped him out. I'm doomed. I am sorry, Tsunami, for Papa was a fool. Tell my dear little grandson I love him, and I will miss him. He said, a silent pray. Don't worry, old man, we are stronger than we appear, said Naruto with a large grin on his face. Yeah, sure thing, kid, said Tazuna. I am the great bridge builder Tazuna, and I expect you to protect me and my crew from all danger. He tells them. Sure thing, old man, said Naruto as he turned away from the old man and walked over to the door. So what gate are we meeting at, and what time do we meet as well? He questioned Kakashi. Kakashi and Asuma look up from the scroll. South gate in 30 minutes. That should give you all time to make it home and get supplies, said Kakashi as all 6 genin nod their heads and they vanish. Naruto grabs Kiba's arms as Akamaru is inside of his jacket. In a loud clap of thunder and lightning, they vanished inside the office. All of Team 10 and Sensei looked at the spot with huge eyes. Sasuke scuffs. Show off. Walks out of the office heading to his apartment. Sarutobi sighed. Damn it. Looking at the Celtic symbol on his hardwood floor. The others looked over at the floor, the symbol that has been left behind from the blonde and his brother. Naruto and Kiba appeared right before the twins, who had been on gate guard duty for Sume had them on her shit list for picking on some girls at the hot springs. Both twins shielded their eyes the flash of lightning as they heard the clap of thunder before the 2 teens appeared before them. Hey, said Naruto with a goofy grin on his face as he looked at the 2 annoyed twins standing before him. They just waved him off as Kiba took off running as the 2 foxes and a karma rod on Kiba's head. Come on, we don't have time to waste on those 2 losers, he said with a shit-eating grin on his face as he ran past the 2, pulling Naruto with him. Inside the house was Thor and Sume looking over some files as Loki had gone back to Asgard to gather supplies for the shops in the village, and he needed to oversee something important. The front door swings open as both adults look up from their paperwork to see the 2 kids running into the house followed by their partners. Thor places his file down and smiles at them. Well, you 2 are home early, he said with a grin on his face, looking them over as he could see the smile on his granddaughter's face before she would go into battle. Yeah, we have a mission outside of the village that will last a month. We are going with Team 10 to the Land of Wave, said Naruto with a grin on her face as she stopped just to talk to the 2 in the kitchen. Yeah, but Naruto is going to give me gray hair by the time we return, whined Kiba as he looks over at his sister. Sume grins at her poor son and looks over at her daughter. Well, Naru, I want you to be incredibly careful while out of the mission. For we don't need anyone finding out your secret, as you have already gotten a little sloppy here in the village with already having one of your friends finding out your secret, she told her daughter, who was now pouting up at the older woman. I'll be careful, you don't need to worry about that. I'm not going to run off on my own to train, and if I do, I will take Kiba or Shika with me so they can be my lookout, said Naruto with a pout still on her face. You better, growled out Kiba as he leaves the kitchen to pack his travel pack. Thor looks at his granddaughter. Are you going in your normal outfit or your warrior's outfit that the Warriors 3 had gifted you before leaving for here? He asked her. Naruto smiled. Well, I would, but they only gave me a female version of it. But I can't take it with me if anything happens and I screw up and they find out I'm a girl, she said with a smile on her face as she liked the battle skirt with leggings and the armored corset with duster like she already wears now. Sume just sighs. It would be easier if you just came out as a girl, she told the 2 before her. I do agree with you, love. But for now, it is best to keep her hidden as much as possible, said Loki as he appears before them as he is holding a scroll in his right hand. This might not be the battle outfit you rather wear, but it will do for now. I even got on for Kiba," he said with a smile as his two grandsons appear behind him. "We got told we had to go on a babysitting mission, and we are not allowed to back out of it," said Hati as he looks at Naruto and back at his grandfather and uncle. Thor just snorts at this. It appears the all-seeing eye has been watching our little princess once again, he said with a large smile on his face. "Fine, just turn into wolves and I'm riding on your back, Hati," said Naruto with a pout on her face. The two just laugh at this and shifted into their larger wolf forms and stand before everyone. "Does this work for you, princess?" teased Skull with a smirk on his muzzle. Naruto smiles and grabs the scrolls from Loki and kisses him on the cheek and runs off with throwing a scroll at Kiba as he was walking out of his room. "Uncle Loki got used new clothes for our mission," she told him running past him as he just dumbly nods his head and turns back around and goes into his room to see what Loki had gotten him. While the kids packed their items from their room, Sume gotten up and packed them several food scrolls as she knows how they can eat and with the extra mouths going along. "It would help the client greatly. Don't worry about us. We are able to hunt as well, we have supplies sealed away with us as well," said Hati with a grin on his muzzle as he looks at the feral woman standing before him and his brother. "I know, but team has a genin on it that can eat almost as much as Thor. But I'm quite sure Naruto cannot eat him still," said Sume as everyone looked at her, as it was rare to meet someone that could eat more than the god of thunder. After 20 minutes of packing and changing, both Kiba and Naruto walk back into the kitchen all dressed with their new travel bags. Kiba is now dressed in a black and dark gray leather duster with a black hood that hides one's face in the shadows. With that he has on black combat pants with black combat boots with a dark gray body thigh shirt. The whole outfit is made out of the fabric that Naruto had been working on that was based off of iron suits. Now Naruto was now dressed in a black and crimson trimmed duster that has a black hood with black combat pants with black combat boots with red trimming and a crimson body tight shirt, and both have gloves in their respected colors. Naruto looks at Loki with a grin on her face. "That fabric hides that I'm a girl and makes me look more male," she told him. "Well, it took a few spells to get it to work the way I wanted it, as well as a program Tony had hidden away that I found while going over a few things last night," said Loki grinning. Naruto nodded her head to this. "This works, but we better go. We have 5 minutes to get to the gates and leave for our missions," she told the others. "Here pups, I packed all your other supplies. There should be enough food to last for about 5 months," said Sume as they nodded their heads, as they knew she was making sure they could feed Choji and Naruto and not worry about eating the client out of house and home. Running out of the house, Naruto takes Kiba's hand and they both vanish in a flash of lightning. Before anyone knew what happened, a clap of thunder was heard, and a flash of lightning was seen at the south gate as the two gate guards shield their eyes as they were ready for anything, even an attack from Kumo. But what they saw standing where the lightning had struck was two teens with Konoha headbands on their foreheads and two massive wolves and two massive foxes and a puppy who was riding on the back of the pure black wolf that now the blonde was now walking over to and jumping onto. As the other boy just walked alongside them to the two teams standing there waiting for the last two members of Team 7 to show up. Naruto laid on Hati's back grinning as they waited for everyone to sign out. Ino walks over to Naruto. Naruto?" she said looking down. Naruto grinned at her and looked over at Skull as he nodded his head. "You can ride on Skull's back. The others can walk," he said with a grin on his face. Ino's head snapped up as his eyes grew large from what Naruto told her as a large smile slowly began spreading across her lips. "Thank you, Naruto," she said as she bounced over to the blonde and hugged him and walked over to Skull and climbed onto his back. Skull looks over at Ino. "Relax and enjoy the ride, princess," he told her with a wink. Ino blushes as she looks over at Naruto, who is snickering at his cousin. "Be careful, Skull. You'll have one of two princesses terribly upset with you," he teased as Ino looked confused at her fellow blonde. "Our princesses wouldn't be upset with me nor my brother, for we treat them more like queens," said Skull laughed. "If you say so. Anko and Hana will be dealing with you too when we return," said Naruto with a laugh. The twins just laugh as they didn't think much of what their cousin told them. Naruto just rolled his eyes as he had saw Anko watching them and had an evil smirk on her face. "Oh well, their funeral," he thought to himself as he waves to the crazy purplet. "Well teams, let's head out," said Kakashi as he eyes smiled at his cute little genin. How are those two going to protect me if they are on those things back? Asked Tazuna. Don't worry old man, our cousin is used to riding our back while going into battle. Said Hati with a grin on his muzzle. I can fight very well with princess on my back and protecting your old ass as well as her in battle. Said Skull with the same grin on his muzzle. The old man took a step back and looked at his sake bottle in his hand. I think this stuff had gone bad. He muttered to himself. Naruto just laughed. No it hasn't, they are shapeshifters, werewolves I guess. He said with a laugh. Tazuna's eyes widened with fear and shock. He remembered hearing stories as a boy about werewolves and other monsters running around at night. But how? Was all he questioned. Long story old man, don't feel like talking about it for you really don't need to know it. Said Skull a little annoyed now with the client they had to aid in protection. Naruto tell your cousins to stop freaking out the client. Said Kakashi from behind his little orange book. Naruto rolled his eyes as Kiba is now standing next to him. I have no control over them. He said shrugging his shoulders looking at his two cousins. The two wolves just laugh at their cousin lying about having no control over them. Yup, no power over us whatsoever. But we are his protectors as he is the next king once Thor steps down. Said Hati with a laugh. Whatever, let's get going losers, I'm getting tired of your stupidity. Said Sasuke as he walks off out of the village. Everyone just rolled their eyes but Ino looking at Sasuke. Let us head out, said Asuma as he took a drag of his cigarette. Several miles ahead of teams 7 and 10. Unknown to them Loki had met up with Heimdall stood above two knocked out fools before them. It appears someone is going to great lengths to kill that bridge builder. Said Heimdall with a sigh. Loki looks at him. Could you find out who's behind this surprise attack? He questioned the guard of the Rainbow Bridge and protector of Asgard. Yes, said Heimdall as he vanished once more as Loki sat on the back of one of the knocked-out bound man with a gas mask. Well, let's find out what the old man has to say for himself once he arrives here with the others. He said to himself as he waits the others to show up. With teams 7 and 10. So, what is the land of Wave like? Questioned Ino from her spot on top of Skull's back. Tazuna looks over at her with a sad smile on his face. It is a beautiful land that is surrounded by the ocean. We have an also forest almost surround the island as well. Our work mainly is fishing and exporting wood and whatever mining we do. For we do have a rich gold mine on two sides of the island as well as one ruby mine. He said looking up to the heavens. It looked like he was trying to blink away tears that wanted to break free from his eyes. Oh, I really would like to see your homeland while we are there. Said Ino as Naruto agreed with her. The two wolves look at each other. For they knew the look the old man had as the two senseis didn't even bother looking at the old man as he talked. Kakashi too busy with his stupid book and Asuma talking with Shikamaru about whatever. But both wolves freeze when they smell something in the air and Naruto looks down at Hati. Hey what's wrong? He questioned feeling a little uneasy with how they are reacting right now. We can smell out grandfather as well as Heimdall. But there is also poison having in the air. Said Hati with a growl after he finished talking. Naruto looked at Ino. Ino you need to get down. We need to check this out if my uncle is here and in danger. He told her as the girl nodded her head and she jumped off and they took off. Kakashi and Asuma followed close behind the two wolves and blonde genin as the others stayed behind protecting the old man. But Sasuke followed after them not caring if he got into trouble. There before them when they arrived was Loki sitting on a bound man's back as another thrashed around yelling at him and telling him to give off his brother. Uncle Loki? Questioned Naruto looking confused jumping off of Hati's back and walked over to the raven hair man. I am fine Naruto. Don't worry. Heimdall saw these fools awaiting to attack your group and their mission is to kill the old man you are protecting. Said Loki looking over at Kakashi as said man was holding onto the collar of Sasuke's shirt to keep him away from the downed men as the little shit had a kunai was in his right hand as he looked ready to kill one of the two men. It looks like this one needs to see someone about his mental issues. Said Loki looking at Kakashi. He will be fine, said Kakashi waving off the god before him. Loki narrowed his eyes at the silver hair fool. I do not believe that if I was you. He told Kakashi but he wasn't going to press the issue as it wasn't worth it. If need be, they could kill the little shit and call it good. So the demon brothers are here. So that means the demon of the mist isn't that far away. said Naruto looking at his uncle as Loki nodded his head to this. That is why Heimdall is checking things out in the land of Wave. For there is something off, said Loki. You might be thinking too much about this Loki-sama, said Kakashi with an eye smile. Asuma looked over at the other Jonin. But it does seem odd, he said looking back at the god before him. You should listen to your friend Kakashi, said Loki as he glared at the Jonin that was once his nephew's student. Kakashi just nodded his head but didn't say anything. Sasuke, that is enough. They are the prisoners of Loki-sama, he told his annoying student. Naruto just sighed at this. I thought things were getting better. But this mission is going to hell already, he thought as he looked at Hati and Skull. Heimdall appeared before them all. It appears there is trouble in the land of waves, he said looking to where the others finally came up behind the Jonins and Naruto. Tazuna looked a little nervous at the name with raven hair sitting on the bound man. What is going on here? He questioned as his nerves are getting the better of him. Loki's cold green eyes look up at him. I was about to ask you the same thing. As Heimdall says is true. You have lied about this mission you have hired my nephew for, he told the frightened elderly man before him. Tazuna fell to his knees before the god that sat before him. Forgive me, have mercy on this old fool. My hands are bound as the people of my island. We have been taken hostage by Gato. He has killed the lord of our land and sold the lady of our land and their children into slavery. Taken over our gold and ruby mines. Taken all our export and imports, taken all our jobs from us and then only hiring us for pennies for the dollar and kidnapping our daughters, wives, sisters and children and selling or worse. The money I had was all we could get together. We had hoped it would be enough for a Chunin team to save our village or maybe a 2 Jonin. Not children that we have here, he cried as he fell the ground. Uncle, said Naruto. Loki knew what she was thinking. For this thing that was never turned away in Asgard. Thor wouldn't allow it and would handle it personal if he could. If I will not stop them from this mission. But I will go along with them. As I do not want to hear my brother cry about something happening to his heir. He said as a sigh escaped his lips. What do you mean? I believe we should turn around and return back to the village. As the client lied about the mission, said Kakashi looking to the god before him. Loki narrowed his eyes at the man. He might have lied, but he did it for the good of his home. If you wish to return, then be it, but Naruto and I will keep going along with Hati and Skull, he told Kakashi in a cold regal tone. Kakashi narrowed his eyes at the man before him. No, we will continue with this mission. But word will be sent to the Hokage about the changes of the mission, he said with annoyed tone in his voice. I shall speak to the Hokage and Thor, said Heimdall as he knew Loki was to the point of snapping the silver hair man in half. Very well, take these 2 back to them as well, said Loki looking over at Heimdall. As you wish, said Heimdall nodding his head and patting his massive hand on Naruto's head. Be safe little one, for may changes await you around ever corning of this mission, he told him. I will, said Naruto smiling up at him. Naruto walked up to the old man. Here, drink this. He handed him a leather pouch to drink from. Tazuna took a drink from it as his eyes widened. What is this? He asked as he looked up at the blonde before him. Naruto smiled. It is mead I make. It is good when one is overwhelmed, he told the old man. It is really good, thank you, said Tazuna as he handed back the leather pouch to the boy. Does Thor know you took your mead with you? Asked Loki looking at his boy. Naruto grinned and held up a finger to his lips and winked. Loki just laughed. Thor will not be happy when he goes looking for it, he told Naruto. Naruto waved him off. I made him more before we left, he said with a large grin on his face. Is that what you were doing? Asked Kiba looking at Naruto. Yup, said Naruto grinning over at his brother. Anyways, in Asgard I am allowed my mead with my dinner after battles. As a shinobi I am allowed to drink now as well. But do not worry uncle. I will not be like the warriors 3. 1 glass of mead is all and fine with dinner or to warm one's self. Other than that, I am fine with tea, said Naruto smiling softly. Loki nodded his head as Hati walked over to the boy and Naruto climbed back on. Scold moved over to Ino allowing the girl back onto his back. As they wouldn't allow the girls of the teams to walk. Why does the dope get the ride on the beast back? Demanded Sasuke as he was growing annoyed with just Ino and Naruto riding on the back of the 2 wolves. Naruto is our blood, and we like him. As well, Ino is a girl and we will not allow a princess to walk. For you we don't like, and you can walk ducky," said Hattie, baring his teeth at the boy. Sasuke just huffs at the wolf and begins walking away from the others as Hattie and Skull roll their eyes. Times passes as they making to the shore where a boat is waiting for the bridge builder. "About time you show up," said a man wrapped up in a cloak. "Sorry we ran into a little trouble," said Tazuna as he got into the boat. Skull and Hattie just stood on the water along with Loki. They didn't feel the need to ride with the others as well, there wasn't enough room for them. As the boatsman was looking at them, two wolves with fear in his eyes. "Don't worry, my cousins will not hurt you," said Naruto, smiling at the man. The man just nods his head, not sure what to think at what the blonde-haired boy told him. But shinobi are strange and can change what they look like. So who is he to say what they truly look like? In the mist, two hazel eyes watch the boat slowly make its way to the land as it also watches two blondes riding on the backs of two massive wolves and a raven-haired man walking alongside them. "I need to find Zabuza-sama and tell them there are more coming with the old man than original reported," thought the person as they vanished into a mirror of ice as it falls to the ground, shattering into a million tiny pieces. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.